Although the frost poison toad has ice attributes, it lives in the forest. Frost accumulates in its body all year round, and when combined with the poison attributes, a special layer of frost coat is condensed in the internal organs of its body. This is an extremely precious material. Taken directly, it has powerful detoxification and therapeutic effects, and for ice spirit root monks, it is a real treasure, which can greatly improve the realm. Of course, taking it directly is the most wasteful way, and in many cases it is still used to refine elixirs. Whether it is the second-level detoxifying elixir, 100 colds and poison elixir, the healing elixir, Bingaling bone pill, or the pure frost spirit pill, used for cultivation, this ingredient will be used. Although the materials used are very few, but they are essential. Moreover, the quality of these elixirs all reach the second-level top grade, which also increase the value of Han Yi. Generally speaking, the strength of frost poison toads is mostly at the mid to late second level. As long as you can kill one, you can harvest tens of thousands of spiritual stones just by selling Han Yi, which shows that its value is precious. Therefore, when they saw this monster, all three people's eyes lit up. If it were other monsters, there would be no problem letting them run away, and they would even wish to do so. After all, damage may occur in the battle, and no one is willing to fight a monster whose strength has reached the third level of foundation establishment. But if this is a frost poisoned toad, then it's a different matter. Quick, stop this monster, don't let him escape. Frost poison toad, stop it quickly. This thing is valuable, we must not let him get away with it. The three of them shouted almost at the same time, and quickly flew forward to stop the frost poison toad at an extremely fast speed, directly blocking its path of departure. Seeing this scene, even the frost toad was dumbfounded. Although its strength is not as strong as other members of the same race, it is not weak, right? As a result, he even stopped him even if he wanted to escape, which made him feel very humiliated. The three of them had an unusually tacit understanding. Qin Chengyu said seriously, "This toad is valuable. Let's work together to solve it. When the Han Yi in the body is divided equally, we can all make a lot of money." Quote. Zhou Daocheng naturally had no objection. He nodded and said, "Okay, but this toad is not weak. You, Taoist Qin, will be the main attacker, and we will assist you." No problem. The leader of the spirit snake sect stepped forward cautiously. The coiled snake spear in his hand was filled with chills, his eyes were fixed on the frost poison toad in front of him, and his aura was already at its strongest. This second-level monster is too powerful. If Zhou Daocheng continues to attack, he may not be able to stop it, and the two spirit puppets may even be damaged here. Therefore, letting the leader of the spirit snake sect take charge of the main attack is definitely the most appropriate choice. For a moment, the scene immediately became tense. Seeing that the way was blocked, the frost toad immediately took a defensive action, its dark green eyes flashing with a cold chill. The swollen belly made a dull and low sound. Every time it rose and fell, it was like thunder in the sky, hitting everyone's hearts again and again. Even until the end, there was a thumping sound, and the ice blue bumps on his body began to emit cold air, and a terrifying aura spread out. It was obvious that the frost poison toad was ready to fight. The leader of the spirit snake sect did not dare to be careless in the slightest. He was completely concentrated. He clenched the spear tightly in his right hand and concentrated his aura to the extreme. In an instant, the spear was quickly drawn out, like black lightning, whipping away quickly. With all his strength, Qin Chengyu showed an almost terrifying force, forming a strong wind around him and stirring up a large amount of dust and weeds. In an instant, he appeared in front of the frost poison toad. At the same time, Zhou Daocheng also took action quickly. As a qualified formation master, he had already arranged the formation immediately. And this time, it was a real full-strength attack, with 4 formations unfolding at the same time in an instant. In the spiritual puppet array, the spotted viper and the black-eyed ghost-scaled snake appeared again. Their huge bodies directly blocked the path of the frost poison toad from the left and right sides. The golden J100 vine formation appeared from behind the frost poison toad at a tricky angle, and a large number of vines swept in, directly binding its 2 hind legs, trying to limit its range of movement. The quicksand formation, combined with the quicksand technique, can directly convert the rocks on the ground into quicksand, firmly restricting the movement of the frost poison toad. At the same time, the 5 spiritual swords of the purple Qi Jade Spirit Sword formation were already floating behind Zhou Daocheng, trembling slightly, ready to attack at any time. These are the 4 most powerful formations currently. As for the other spiritual puppet formation, Zhou Daocheng did not bring it, but left it to Mr. Wei. However, it is still necessary for him to hide his power, and there is no need to expose all his trump cards to the public. And judging from the current situation, they still have the advantage. Zhou Daocheng and Xie Zhouhei did not step forward to help because it was difficult for them to directly participate in a battle of this level. The leader of the Spirit Snake sect has a third level of foundation strength, owns several second-level magic weapons, and has probably learned second-level spells, so his overall strength is extremely strong. Zhou Daocheng and Xie Zhouhei were obviously far behind. Not only were they just at the first level of foundation building, but they also did not have powerful magical weapons or spells. Xie Zhouhei's only second-level magical weapon was the Red Dragon Shield, obtained from the Fire Dragon sect, and he could only carry it twice. As for Zhou Daocheng, the situation was relatively good. In addition to the Blue Moon bracelet, he also brought a giant bow, which was just able to exert some effect. So, in addition to using the formation to contain the toad, another important task for the two was to attack with the giant ridge bow. The formation controlled the frost poison toad in a certain area, and Qin Chengyu launched a series of powerful attacks, forcing the frost poison toad directly into a corner. At this time, an arrow wrapped in blazing flames instantly crossed the sky, broke through the air, made a sharp sound, and pierced directly into the head of the frost poison toad. Sizzle. The arrow pierced the skin of the head, and the flames burned the frost, immediately forming injuries on the head of the frost poison toad. However, due to the difference in strength, the frost poison toad was not really seriously injured, but instead aroused its ferocity, and slapped the leader of the Spirit Snake sect with a fierce slap. Qin Chengyu reacted very quickly and immediately blocked it with a spear, but the frost spread from the spear shaft to his hands, forming a layer of frost directly on his hands. If it were an ordinary cultivator, just such an attack would be enough to kill him. However, the leader of the Spirit Snake sect relied on his pure spiritual energy to quickly melt the frost and barely escaped the attack. At the same time, the spotted viper and the black-eyed ghost-scaled snake also immediately took action, suppressing the frost poison toad at the critical moment, successfully stopping its attack and preventing it from continuing to attack the leader of the Spirit Snake sect. With clever coordination, they avoided the killing move of the frost poison toad without any danger. Then, it was time for Zhou Daocheng and others to counterattack. A sound of breaking through the air sounded. The golden arrow streaked through the air, with a sharp edge, and pierced the neck of the frost poison toad at an extremely tricky angle. It was too late to resist and let the arrow penetrate its skin. The dueling bow controlled by a foundation building strongman is much more powerful than that controlled by a chi refining cultivator. Whether it is the richness of the spiritual energy or the sensitivity of the control, the arrow has a stronger threat. The moment it felt the threat, the frost poison toad immediately reacted and tried to resist with its tough skin and strong muscles, but the effect was minimal. And then, Qin Chengyu rushed forward again, with a long spear like a dragon, and a black python phantom faintly emerged from the spear, which increased the power of the spearmanship. Every time he shot, the frost poison toad hurriedly blocked it, and its steps were completely messed up. There were also spotted vipers and black-eyed ghost-scaled snakes nearby, whipping it with their tails. The sturdy black puppet wood body was not afraid of poison or cold, and the effect was excellent when it was only used as an auxiliary. The continuous blows directly made the frost poison toad lose its sense of proportion, and soon revealed an obvious flaw, and was immediately caught by the leader of the Spirit Snake sect, and the long spear stabbed into the eyes fiercely. At the same time, Zhou Daocheng shot 2 arrows in succession with his strong true energy. Facing the attacks coming at the same time, the frost poison toad had no resistance. The long spear pierced into the eyes, and the arrows nailed the feet, and it was seriously injured in an instant. Goo goo gwa. Boom, boom, boom. Accompanied by a shrill roar, the frost poison toad's belly continued to swell, making a loud bang. The emotions of anger and fear intertwined, making it want to escape involuntarily, but layers of obstacles blocked it, and the situation was no longer possible. Moreover, the continuous heavy blows had greatly weakened its breath. Zhou Daocheng remembered that the frost poison toad, a monster species, seemed to have a spell called cold breath, but the battle rhythm was too fast, and he was completely suppressed before he could use it. The next battle became much simpler. Qin Chengyu's spear stirred, while Zhou Daocheng and Xie Zhouhei successively controlled the giant ridge bow, continuously carrying out long-range attacks to consume the vitality of the monster. It took more than 2 hours to grind the monster to death bit by bit. Seeing the frost-poisoned toads breathing getting weaker and weaker, and finally falling directly to the ground without any movement, the three of them couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Collecting spirits and gathering monster resources, a one-stop service was arranged directly. In its stomach, a lot of precious, cold cloves were also found, but because of its low strength, the number of cold cloves was not much, only about 5 pounds. And 5 pounds refers to the fresh state. If it is processed again, the actual weight should be less. Looking at these winter cloves, Qin Chengyu thought for a moment and said, "My friend, how about this? We can use all these winter cloves for detoxification pills. It's just enough to refine one furnace, and then we'll divide the pills equally." As if considering Xie Zhouhei beside him, he added, "If you don't need detoxification pills, I'll also replenish the spirit stones at the corresponding price." Zhou Daocheng hesitated a little, but finally agreed. The number of winter cloves of this frost-poisoned toad is small, and if you want to make the detoxification pill, 100 cold detoxification pill, the number of winter cloves required is relatively large, just enough to refine one furnace. If you take it directly to refine, it's just right. If you divide it among each other, it's obviously not enough. For the leader of the spirit snake sect, if he wants to survive in the 100 insect poison swamp in the future, he will inevitably deal with various poisons. If he can have a few second-grade top-grade, 100 cold detoxification pills, his safety will certainly be greatly guaranteed. Zhou Daocheng also expressed his understanding. Besides, for him, the cold cloves would at most be sold in exchange for spirit stones. It would be better to use this to exchange for a favor, which would benefit both parties. After dealing with the 2 second-level monsters, the next thing was much simpler. The 3 foundation building masters directly began to clear the surrounding first-level late-stage monsters. Under the dimensionality reduction attack, almost no monster could withstand it. The 5 hunting teams cleared the weaker first-level early-stage and middle-stage monsters, which was not only faster but also safer. It took almost 7 days for everyone to clear all the monsters within 5 kilometers around the mountain. It took almost no effort to completely occupy this second-level upper-grade spirit vein. Even Zhou Daocheng was impressed by the luck of the leader of the spirit snake sect. Generally speaking, it is a very difficult thing to find a second-level upper-grade spirit vein in the wild environment. What's more, it was not occupied by a powerful monster, but only 2 second-level early-stage monsters, so it was easily cleared. Zhou Daocheng wanted to ask how the leader of the spirit snake sect found such a precious spiritual vein in the wilderness. Relying on this spiritual vein, coupled with the rich resources around it and the relatively strong strength of the spirit snake sect itself, it will surely develop gradually here. Of course, this is definitely a good thing for the Wugu market. The 2 sides can complement each other and drive each other's development. After doing all this, the leader of the spirit snake sect was in a very good mood. He set up a stone table on the top of the mountain, took out a bottle of second-level spiritual wine, and entertained Zhou Daocheng and the others. "My 2 Taoists, the conditions are limited now. I can only invite you to drink a sip of wine. After we completely migrate here and establish a sect, I will treat you 2 at a grand banquet." The leader of the spirit snake sect drank it all in one gulp, and then sighed, "Without the help of the 2 of you, I am afraid it will be difficult to clear the monsters here." "Qin, thank you very much." Zhou Daocheng took a sip of the spiritual wine, smiled and waved his hand, saying, "No need to thank me. Helping you, Taoist Qin, is actually helping myself. I will need your help in the future. Help each other. Now the distance between the 2 sides is not far, and we can communicate frequently on weekdays." "Of course." Qin Chengyu smiled and sighed. "Hide at this point, our spirit snake sect is safe and can avoid the next war." The 2 sides had a good chat and their relationship became closer, which also made the relationship between the spirit snake sect and the Fog Valley market closer. After resting for 2 days, Zhou Daocheng led the Fog Valley team and began to return to Fog Valley. Although several monks from the hunting team were injured in this monster cleaning, the number was not large, and no one was injured. Overall, it was very smooth. Moreover, 2 spirits and a lot of monster materials were earned. For the 2 second-level monsters, Zhou Daocheng took away part of the carapace of the corrupted poison-armored lizard and some flesh and blood of the frost-poisoned toad, and the rest of the big heads were left to the leader of the spirit snake sect. But in fact, apart from the very valuable winter clothes of the frost-poisoned toad, there were no other precious materials on these 2 monsters. Even the rotten poison-armored lizard was full of poison and corrosive, and its flesh and blood could not be eaten, so its value was relatively low. As for the other first-level monsters, they only took away a small part of the useful materials, and the remaining flesh and blood were all left to the spirit snake sect. After all, they had just moved here, and the demand for food was relatively large, so it was still necessary to store some. When Zhou Daocheng returned to the Fog Valley, the large team of the spirit snake sect had almost arrived at the spiritual vein and officially settled down. Next, it was a busier job to establish the sect. The mountains needed to be further cleaned up, the monsters had to be driven out more thoroughly, and the forests and fields had to be reclaimed and development resumed. These tasks were far more troublesome than imagined, and they consumed a lot of time and energy. For a long time, they could only live in the Earth Spirit House, enjoying the cold and loneliness of this barren mountain range, listening to the roar of the beasts day and night, and then gradually getting familiar with this strange new sect station. It was not only the unfamiliar environment, but also the various dangers that might appear around, as well as the lack of spiritual valleys, talismans, elixirs, etc. At this time, Wu Gu sent support again. Xie Zhouhei was personally responsible for the transportation, and all kinds of basic resources needed for life and cultivation were sent to the Lingxi sect from a distance as their logistical support. Qin Chengyu had to sigh that he was indeed a good ally for such a reliable behavior. Because it can be clearly seen from the time alone that after Zhou Daocheng and others returned to Wugu, they almost sent teams to transport supplies without hesitation. Even Xie Zhouhei, a foundation building expert, was also rushing back and forth, giving everyone in the Lingxi sect a sense of security. In this process, the middle and low-level cultivators of both sides also had the opportunity to contact each other, make friends with each other, and establish a deep friendship, which will lay a solid foundation for future cooperation between the two sides. What surprised Zhou Daocheng and Qin Chengyu was that the leader of the Disha sect, Lin Xiaoyuan, heard the news from somewhere and actually sent a batch of supplies to the Lingxi sect as a gift for an ally. Whether it was out of kindness or other unknown ideas, the Spirit Snake sect still accepted this kindness. After all, the three parties may have cooperation in the future, so it is necessary to ease the relationship between them. At the same time, Qin Chengyu also renamed the newly found spiritual vein, Xuanxi Mountain, which can be regarded as a real settlement. It's just that Zhou Daocheng was concerned about these things at first, and then all the follow-up was handed over to Xie Zhouhei to take charge. It's not that he doesn't care, but after returning to Wugyufeng City, he has more important things to deal with. First of all, during the few days he was away, he just had some new insights into the second-level formation and urgently needed to study in seclusion. So as soon as he returned to Wugyufeng City, he immediately returned to the Spirit Beast Garden for seclusion. However, just after 2 days of seclusion, the return of a person once again disrupted his plan, forcing him to come out of seclusion. Because the woman with the red snake tattoo is back. Moreover, it seems that she was injured. When the two met, the woman with the red snake tattoo still looked cold and beautiful, but her breath was obviously weak, and obvious injuries could be seen next to the exposed red snake tattoo. It seems that the journey to buy the foundation building pill was not as safe as imagined, but full of thrills. Zhou Daocheng was about to ask something, but the woman with the red snake tattoo did not give him a chance. Instead, she threw a box to him, and then returned to the third valley without looking back, and went directly into her own cave. Just when she left, she frowned and glanced at Zhou Daocheng, obviously seeing that he had broken through to the foundation building stage. But she didn't say anything, and she didn't seem to have the strength to speak. Her weak breath and pale lips all showed that she was seriously injured. Knowing that the woman with the red snake tattoo had left, Zhou Daocheng still frowned and stood there, with a lot of thoughts in his mind. It was only a matter of time before the woman with the red snake tattoo came back, but once she came back, Zhou Daocheng would have to face many problems. The most troublesome thing is the rumor that Flame Snake Princess and Lord of Fog Valley have become Taoist couples, and Pan He's death. Although these news will not reach the ears of the red snake tattooed woman in a short time, it is only a matter of time before she knows it. Once the matter is leaked, the relationship between the two sides will inevitably drop to the freezing point, and it is even possible that they will turn against each other. This is a problem that Zhou Daocheng has to consider. Moreover, for Fog Valley now, there are already 3 foundation building masters, and Zhou Daocheng can also refine the spirit puppet array, and has a lot of foundation building combat power. In this way, Zhou Daocheng needs to reconsider whether he still needs the red snake tattooed woman. It seems that there is not much meaning to have one more person. Although her strength is as high as the 3rd level of foundation building, she is an unstable factor after all, and she will not completely obey orders. On the contrary, if the relationship is not handled well, it may even cause backlash and endanger the safety of Fog Valley. If you want to get rid of her, what method should you use? If she is not killed and is expelled from the Mist Valley directly, then based on the conflict between the two parties and the character of the woman with the red snake tattoo, she must be a great enemy. But if she is killed, it seems a bit inhumane. Zhou Daocheng's eyes flickered, looking at the box in his hand, which seemed to be stained with a lot of blood, but when he opened it, a strong medicinal fragrance came to his face. Foundation building pill. As expected, this is a foundation building pill. Even though it is not the first time I have seen it, I still feel my breathing heavy and my heartbeat quickens. This means that the Zhou family can add another foundation building expert. Foundation building cultivators are far from being comparable to the spirit puppets in the spirit puppet array, and they are not even on the same level. The strength of the spirit puppet is only the foundation building level at best, and there is no possibility of any improvement at all. Moreover, if it is used for a long time, it will be damaged. Just like the frequently used spotted viper and black-eyed ghost scale snake, they have suffered serious injuries because they have experienced many battles. Not only is the body of the black puppet wood damaged, with many wounds and corrosion, but even the spirit in the puppet has suffered a lot of trauma. And this kind of trauma is likely to be unable to be repaired by the soul restoration hand, because it is not an injury caused by external attack, but because it has been used for a long time and consumes too much energy, so it looks a lot weaker. So at most, it will be used a few more times, and it is likely that this set of spirit puppet array will be useless. But the strong foundation builders are different. The meaning and value they represent are extraordinary, and they truly represent the foundation of a force. If the fourth brother Zhou Daoqi is allowed to break through, it also means that there is an additional second-level weapon refiner, and the value will be even higher. Looking at the foundation establishment pill, Zhou Daocheng also had a complicated expression. He couldn't help but mutter to himself, although the woman with the red snake tattoo is troublesome, she is quite reliable. She actually brought back a foundation establishment pill. For a person who didn't know whether he was an enemy or a friend, he risked his life to bring back a foundation building pill even though he was seriously injured. Zhou Daocheng didn't know whether to call her a tough character or a bit stupid. Oh, if you don't come back, that's it, but if you come back, what should I do with you? Zhou Daocheng looked complicated. After thinking for a moment, he turned around and returned to the cave. Now the woman with the red snake tattoo was seriously injured, and it would take a lot of time to heal. He just took advantage of this time to break through to the second-level array mage. If a second-level formation could be deployed, it might be easier to deal with the woman with the red snake tattoo. Sitting cross-legged in the cave, Zhou Daocheng tried his best to calm down his thoughts and completely immersed himself in the study of the battle method. For the first set of second-level formations he learned, he finally chose a formation called Snake Bone Spirit Formation. This formation is actually not very powerful, at least among a large number of second-order formations. It can only be regarded as an ordinary level. However, Zhou Daocheng happened to have a second-order snake bone, so he chose this formation. If he had more time, Zhou Daocheng would like to study and learn the second-level Earth Attribute Formation, which can not only be used in combat but also assist his own cultivation. Or learning the second-level Sword Formation and just using the purple Qi Jingling Bamboo to arrange the formation is also a very good choice. Unfortunately, the Earth Attribute Formation lacks second-level materials, so it cannot be deployed in a short time. As for the second-level sword formation, although there is no shortage of formation materials, Zhou Daocheng does not have a ready-made diagram of the second-level sword formation. If you want to arrange it, you must first use the formation method, and create a formation suitable for using the purple spirit bamboo on the basis of the purple spirit sword array. This will increase the difficulty a lot, and it will be short. It cannot be completed within the time limit. So the next best thing was to find a second-level formation, Snake Bone Spirit Formation, of average quality based on the existing materials. After killing 2 second-level giant pythons, the higher quality snake bones of the black-eyed ghost-scaled snake were given to his eldest brother Zhou Daocheng to refine the magic weapon, while the snake bones of the spotted viper were kept. Just right for setting up the Snake Bone Spirit Array. Compared with other second-level formations, the coverage area of this formation can only be considered medium, but compared with the first-level high-level formations, the coverage area is still much larger. It also has the effect of attacking and trapping enemies. It can be regarded as a formation that has both offensive and defensive capabilities. Zhou Daocheng carefully studied each formation pattern, understood the changes, memorized every detail, and began to truly understand this second-order formation. Compared with the first-order formation, this is a completely different level. If the first-order formation is a simple formation layout, then the second-order formation is more than 10 times more complicated. Whether it is the layout of the formation pattern itself or the effect on the second-order snake bone, it is an extremely test of Zhou Daocheng's ability. Moreover, the time, energy, and energy required to deploy the second-level formation have increased several times. If it had not been upgraded to the foundation building stage, Zhou Daocheng would most likely not be able to deploy it. With his amazing understanding, Zhou Daocheng learned this formation in just 7 days. This is also due to the accumulation as a first-level array mage. When he can arrange the spirit puppet array, his array skills are infinitely close to those of a second-level array mage. Now he has broken through the last layer of paper. After that, he spent another 20 days devoting himself wholeheartedly to the refining of the array. During this period, he did not make any mistakes. He arranged the array almost perfectly, and then successfully exited. As a formation master, when he had a set of second-order formations in his hands, he truly gained confidence and was able to gain a firm foothold in the early stages of foundation building. At least now, he has enough confidence to say that with the spirit puppet formation and snake bone spirit formation, he can fight against most of the first-level foundation building monks and suppress or even kill them. With the Wu Tu Kun Yu Gong, he also has a defense that is not afraid of the first-level monks. Even if he faces the second-level monks of foundation building, he is fully capable of challenging him. According to my current amount of true energy, I should be able to control at most 1 second-level formation and 3 first-level high-level formations at the same time. However, if I control the spirit puppet formation, it will consume more true energy, and I can probably only control 2 sets. Quote. Zhou Daocheng murmured to himself, already having a rough understanding of his current strength. A set of snake bone spirit array, plus 2 sets of spirit puppet array, and the blue moon bracelet for self-defense, is the strongest state. However, Zhou Daocheng couldn't help but frown when he raised his head when he thought of what he was going to do next. I don't know if I can fight against the woman with the red snake tattoo with such strength. After careful consideration, Zhou Daocheng still felt that the woman with the red snake tattoo was no longer needed in Wugyufang City. She must be dealt with in advance before she knows that she killed Pan He, otherwise things will be very troublesome. Just how to deal with it, Ida's over, the most important issue to consider now. Killing is a method. Being sleepy is also a method. Conquering is the best choice. The difficulty of each one is different, and Zhou Daocheng has many issues to consider, and he does not dare to make a choice easily. The possibility of subjugation is the least. With his understanding of the woman with the red snake tattoo, there is no way to pry open her heart and make her choose to surrender. Trapped, in fact, is very good. He has broken through to the foundation building stage and has also become a second-level array master. He has a stronger control over this natural second-level superior array and can completely trap her in the array. However, this woman is unlikely to surrender. If she often makes noise or causes trouble in the array, it will be very troublesome. As for killing, it seems to be the most straightforward and the most effective way to get rid of it. After leaving the retreat, Zhou Daocheng was thoughtful and asked about the situation of the red snake tattoo as soon as possible. After learning that she had never come out since entering the third valley, she should still be healing in it, so Zhou Daocheng was relieved. However, he still went to the third valley to check it out in person. Standing on the top of the mountain, silently watching the quiet valley, surrounded by thick clouds and mist, like a fairyland. As night fell, the weather seemed to be cold for a few days, making this valley more depressed. Then at this moment, Zhou Daocheng's eyes suddenly lit up and his eyes looked fiercely at the third valley. Because just now, I felt a breath of fire, extremely hot and explosive, and even the temperature in the third valley increased a bit. Is this a tattoo riot? Zhou Daocheng was surprised. He didn't expect it to be such a coincidence. The woman with the red snake tattoo happened to have a tattoo riot tonight. This familiar power is exactly the same as the last time I saw it. It even seems to be more powerful. The flame energy is more explosive and difficult to control. As a chi refining monk, Zhou Daocheng knew that the hydralisk tattoo was very powerful, but he didn't know how powerful it was. Now, as a foundation building expert, he finally understood what a terrifying flame this was. Its quality would most likely reach the late second level. It was no wonder that the woman with the red snake tattoo couldn't bear it. Moreover, this is most likely not an ordinary flame, but a special kind of spiritual fire. Maybe it's not as good as the innate spiritual fire in the world of immortality, but it's enough to compare with some earthly fire. Generally speaking, flames can be divided into many types, such as innate spiritual fire born between heaven and earth fire deep underground, demon fire possessed by monsters, or acquired fire formed by spells, and there are even many other varieties. Flame. These special flames possess extraordinary power and are sought after by a large number of monks. Whether it is used for refining alchemy, refining weapons, or fighting, it can show extraordinary effects. The flame on the woman with the red snake tattoo is a special flame formed by magic. The color is rose red, extremely deep and gorgeous, and the temperature is so terrifying that it can even melt rocks. Zhou Daocheng felt the terrifying power inside and did not dare to get close for a while. But at this moment, a word came to his mind: God-given opportunity. Now is the time when the woman with the red snake tattoo is at her weakest. Most of her energy and spirit are used to fight against the tattoo riot. If she is besieged at this time, it will definitely be easier. However, there are bound to be risks involved. The riot of the red snake tattoo not only greatly restricted the flame snake lady, but also caused harm to other people, and the degree of danger may be even higher. Moreover, Zhou Daocheng was reluctant to take advantage of others' danger. His eyes were slightly lowered, and Zhou Daocheng hesitated a little. Thousands of thoughts appeared in his mind. Can he just kill her? Is there a better way? Can peaceful coexistence be achieved through other means? After thinking for a moment, Zhou Daocheng's eyes suddenly lit up. A better choice. Maybe it's not impossible. However, thinking of this new possibility, Zhou Daocheng had a strange look on his face, always feeling that it would damage his image of integrity. Perhaps this method can maximize the benefits. Zhou Daocheng murmured to himself, and when he looked in the direction of the woman with the red snake tattoo, he couldn't help but murmured, if you really want to do this, maybe it would be better to do it as soon as possible. At this moment, the red snake's flames continued to rise, burning every corner of the body. A large amount of sweat emerged from the fair skin, and then was immediately burned and evaporated by the flames, rendering the skin a translucent red under the high temperature. The woman with the red snake tattoo looked in pain, and it was obvious that the muscles in her body were exerting force, as if they were resisting the power of the flames. He tried countless times to restrain the power in his body, but unfortunately he couldn't control it at all. He could only let a large amount of flames come out, and the red snake head was lifelike, as if it really was like a red snake swimming around his body. Zhou Daocheng watched this scene quietly. At this time, the woman with the red snake tattoo had already focused 90% of her energy on fighting against the red snake tattoo. She was at her weakest. And this state, based on last experience, should last for an hour. The longer the time lasts, the more energy and mana will be consumed, the body will be weaker, and the will be closer to weakness. Zhou Daocheng waited silently, looking at this beautiful picture without any emotion in his eyes, and the impulse caused by sun and menstruation was forcibly suppressed. After waiting for more than half an hour, Zhou Daocheng stepped into the third valley and approached the cave of the woman with the red snake tattoo. Although she was already in an extremely tired and painful state, when she felt the footsteps, the woman with the red snake tattoo still raised her head warily. The moment their eyes met, the woman with the red snake tattoo's pupils shrank slightly, vaguely aware of a hint of danger. Breathing deeply, he said feebly, "Boy, do you want to see my tattoo, or do you want to take the opportunity to kill me?" Zhou Daocheng touched his nose and thought he must have hidden it well. How come anyone could see it at a glance? It seems that I still have to practice my own city, but it is still too easy to be happy now. But now, even if the intention is discovered, it doesn't matter. Even if the woman with the red snake tattoo still has the power to resist, it will only be at the level of the first level of foundation building. If it were him in the past, even if he faced the woman with the red snake tattoo in her current state, he would most likely not be a match. But now that her strength has been greatly improved, the one who is at a disadvantage is the woman with the red snake tattoo. Zhou Daocheng felt calm in the light, and slowly walked to the woman with the red snake tattoo, admiring the lifelike red snake tattoo. He could feel the severe pain, making the red snake tremble slightly with the skin, and a fine layer of sweat adhered to it. The woman with the red snake tattoo frowned, and there was a dangerous light in her eyes. "You are more courageous than before. Are you not afraid that I will kill you?" Under the intense pain and long-term high-intensity mental concentration, her consciousness gradually began to blur, and she was staring at Zhou Daocheng's bronze mask. But as her strength became less and less, her spirit became weaker and weaker, and her vision became blurred. Only at the end, she vaguely saw the figure in front of her and slowly took off the bronze mask. The next moment, an extremely young face with a youthful heroic spirit appeared in front of him, but his calm and deep eyes were like a deep cold pond. What are you going to do? If she was just suspicious before, then at this time, the woman with the red snake tattoo was almost certain that the Lord of the Mist Valley was not just here to see her tattoo. In fact, as early as when she handed over the foundation building pill and saw that it had successfully broken through to the foundation building stage, she had already had a bad premonition. Unfortunately, she was already seriously injured at the time and was unable to make other arrangements. She could only stay in the Mist Valley to recuperate and then make long-term plans. But even more unfortunately, when her injuries had not yet healed, the tattoo riot actually came ahead of time, catching her off guard and causing her more serious injuries. At this moment, when he saw Zhou Daocheng holding, even though her body was extremely tired and her spiritual energy was almost exhausted, she still tried her best to support herself, condensed flames in her hands, and tried to use spells. But the next moment, Zhou Daocheng's strong spiritual energy grasped his wrist, and his true energy, which was no weaker than the woman with the red snake tattoo, burst out, suppressing the flame true energy for an instant. And then, in the horrified eyes of the woman with the red snake tattoo, the lines of the second-order formation emerged in the cave, and a large number of snake bones with intertwined teeth grew out of it, directly blocking the entire cave entrance. At the same time, around the woman with the red snake tattoo, a large number of snake bones were rising from the ground, surrounding her as if forming a bed. Among the ferocious snake bones, the fair and delicate body was breathing heavily, with a layer of pink on top of the rose-red flames. In addition to exhaustion, the pupils of the woman with the red snake tattoo were full of coldness. What you up to? In just the blink of an eye, a pair of cold hands covered the red snake tattoo, and the faint coolness actually brought a sense of comfort. A cold voice echoed, "Of course I am studying the double snake tattoo. You agreed before." Bastard. The woman with the red snake tattoo bit her red lips and said coldly, "If you dare to do anything other than researching tattoos, I will definitely not let you go." Zhou Daocheng didn't speak, and such threats had no effect on him. He still looked at the double snake tattoo with clear eyes, as if he really saw something from it. Instead, it was the woman with the red snake tattoo, whose body was shaking uncontrollably due to the pain of burning fire. After dozens of breaths, a clear understanding appeared on Zhou Daocheng's face, and he said calmly, "I see, it seems that my guess was not wrong. What? Twin snake tattoos, one ice and one fire, one yin and one yang. Logically speaking, yin and yang are balanced and blend with each other. How can they riot at the same time? This question. Have you ever thought about it?" The woman with the red snake tattoo did not answer, but her pupils seemed to understand something and were still angry. Zhou Daocheng lowered his gaze, following the tattoo pattern, all the way to the ice snake tattoo close to his lower body. Feeling the aggressive gaze, the woman with the red snake tattoo couldn't help frowning and curling up. But the next moment, what Zhou Daocheng said made her muscles tense instantly and a blush appeared on her body. "Senior Red Snake, have you ever noticed? When you tattoo a riot, the two snake tattoos that were originally separated will be intertwined with each other, and the energy of the intertwined parts will overflow from them. Do you know what this means?" What's the meaning? These two snakes should be a male and a female. If they are separated for a long time, they will have a bad temper and their energy will be difficult to control. If I guess correctly, the existence of this double snake tattoo carved on the seal should end up as a male and a female. Lita S completely helps Senior integrate these two talismans. The woman with the red snake tattoo was breathing heavily, her pupils were constricted, something seemed to have occurred to her mind, and her expression suddenly became startled. Seeing the expression of the woman with the red snake tattoo, Zhou Daocheng guessed, Senior's injuries this time should be caused by the talisman, right? The people from the secret talisman palace have found you. If it was just surprise before, then when the three words, secret talisman palace, appeared, it was a complete shock. How do you know the secret talisman palace? The hoarse voice of the woman with the red snake tattoo suddenly became louder. It's not important. Judging from your reaction, what I said before should be correct. Zhou Daocheng showed a clear expression, vaguely understanding the principle of this talisman method. The woman with the red snake tattoo frowned while enduring the pain. Yes, they do want to catch me, but what they want to catch me for? I don't know. Do you know how to solve the double snake tattoo? Zhou Daocheng's eyes were calm and he only replied with 4 words, men and women's affairs. When the woman with the red snake tattoo heard these 4 words, her expression suddenly became uncertain, and she looked at Zhou Daocheng with suspicion. Zhou Daocheng didn't care at all and said calmly, you don't need to look at me like this. You can give it a try and see if what I said is wrong. And you have been exploring and studying your own tattoos for many years. I don't believe you don't understand it at all. This kind of tattoo. The woman with the red snake tattoo's eyes flickered. At this time, the burning of the red snake tattoo was coming to an end. Although she was exhausted, her consciousness regained a trace of clarity. Moreover, when Zhou Daocheng said, things between men and women, just now, she did not object or become angry, but she accepted this statement to a certain extent. Because this is what the people from the secret talisman palace were going to do to her during this outing. After calming down the emotions in her heart, the woman with the red snake tattoo said in a hoarse voice, you are right, but it is not entirely correct. This is the secret technique of the secret talisman palace, using people to refine the talisman. When the twin snake tattoos are conceived, they will be able to use the method of dual cultivation to integrate the ice snake and the fire snake into a complete talisman. It's just that the energy when the talisman is fused is extremely strong. With the strength of my 3rd level of foundation building, it should be impossible to withstand it. In the end, there should only be a skin bag left as the carrier of the talisman. When he said this, there was only a wry smile and desolation in Red Snake Tattoo's tired eyes. Zhou Daocheng shook his head. Tattoos can be fused and naturally separated. As long as they are not in the same body, there will be no energy riot caused by mating with each other. Haha, you want to take advantage of me. The woman with the red snake tattoo said calmly, with a sneer on her lips. Zhou Daocheng's expression remained unchanged and he said confidently, if it doesn't work, will you kill me? The woman with the red snake tattoo was stunned, as if she did not expect Zhou Daocheng to be so confident. She looked deeply at the person in front of her, and then she seemed to make up her mind. But you said it. The next moment, the white jade arms were like snakes, winding around in the warm atmosphere, and the body was lifted up with a little force. The flames attached to the 2 people, turning the purple long clothes into ashes. Zhou Daocheng looked at the cold and beautiful face on her body. Even at this time, there was no softness. With cold indifference and a hint of deterrence, it formed a sharp contrast with the hot body. Only when the 2 sides were completely in love, her expression changed slightly. She frowned slightly and clenched her fingers in discomfort. Until this time, she did not forget to remind him in a hurried tone, boy, communicate with the tattoo talisman first. However, Zhou Daocheng at this time could not hear these words, and there was no reason to work before eating. After several reminders, the woman with the red snake tattoo frowned and closed her eyes completely. She found that at this stage, how things would develop was no longer decided by her. And at this moment, the double snake tattoo on her body became more and more agile, as if stimulated, swimming on her body. As the emotions of the woman with the red snake tattoo grew higher and she gradually immersed herself in a certain state, the 2 snakes actually merged into one another. Indistinctly, it seemed to be completely fused to form a new and more powerful talisman. But at this moment, both Zhou Daocheng and the woman with the red snake tattoo had fallen into desire. It was not until a quarter of an hour later that Zhou Daocheng keenly noticed the changes in the tattoo, which was almost completely fused. He was immediately frightened and broke out in a cold sweat. In a hurry, he slapped the woman with the red snake tattoo. With a crisp sound, the air solidified instantly. The red face of the woman with the red snake tattoo was stunned, and then it turned cold in an instant, staring at Zhou Daocheng as if she wanted to kill someone. Zhou Daocheng touched his nose and said awkwardly, do business. I remember this slap. Zhou Daocheng was quite helpless, but he really couldn't blame him. If the double snake tattoos were to merge, the consequences would be disastrous. Not only would the woman with the red snake tattoo lose her life and become a talisman fragment, but it was also very likely that Zhou Daocheng would be killed by this terrifying energy. After all, he was not from the secret symbol palace, and he did not know how to use the double snake tattoo. His strength was relatively weak, and he could not control this power at all. But fortunately, both sides stopped in time, and the double snakes seemed to become depressed from their high emotions, slowly intertwined. Zhou Daocheng could feel that the behavior of the double snakes seemed to be synchronized with him and the woman with the red snake tattoo. They were still in an intertwined state, but the movements between them stopped, panting slightly, as if they were resting. A slap directly made the woman with the red snake tattoo, who had rarely fallen, sober up, and adjusted her posture to reveal the double snake tattoo. Asked, "What should I do next?" After thinking for a while, Zhou Daocheng said, "I will try to guide the ice snake out, don't move." I didn't move, but I advise you not to move, otherwise this slap. I will give it back to you now. I really didn't mean it. Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and finish the business, otherwise I will definitely drag you to death today. Zhou Daocheng. He also gradually calmed down his emotions and began to gradually introduce his true energy into the body of the woman with the red snake tattoo. Feeling this invading power, the woman with the red snake tattoo couldn't help but frown, feeling that the secrets in her body were completely exposed, and she was extremely uncomfortable. And this kind of true energy invasion is extremely dangerous. If Zhou Daocheng has ill intentions and forcibly destroys the meridians from the body, then the woman with the red snake tattoo will not have time to resist and will be directly seriously injured. And Zhou Daocheng was also very careful. The powerful Wu Earth true energy swam in his body, spreading all the way to the area of the ice snake tattoo, completely wrapping it. However, the power of the ice snake was extremely strong, and it was not something that a small amount of Wu Earth spiritual chi could wrap around. So it lasted for a quarter of an hour, but it didn't work, and the ice snake gradually became impatient and close to the edge of a riot. The woman with the red snake tattoo frowned slightly, and as the two hugged each other, a lot of fine sweat had already appeared on her forehead. Panting slightly, she said, "Can you move faster? Can't you just input a lot of true energy and force it to wrap it?" Zhou Daocheng interrupted and said impatiently, "It's all because of you. When you suppressed the red snake tattoo just now, you had already consumed all the mana in your body. There was no extra mana to protect the meridians. If I force it, I'm afraid your body will not be able to bear it first." Hearing this, the woman with the red snake tattoo opened her mouth slightly, but didn't say anything else. She could only continue to maintain her posture and wrap the ice dragon in a relatively slow way. This process lasted for a full hour. During this period, the ice snake did not riot, but was slowly pulled out of the body with the traction of a large amount of Wu Earth True Qi and came to Zhou Daocheng. During this process, Zhou Daocheng also broke the formation that trapped the tattoo. This method is actually not special, nor is it very dangerous. It is just the most common formation that traps the fire snake and the ice snake together. Every once in a while, when the two energies blend with each other, a riot will occur. When the formation is destroyed, the two spirit snakes can separate from each other, but the two snakes have blended too many times before, so they are not willing to separate at all. This process consumed a lot of Zhou Daocheng's energy. Finally, when the ice snake entered Zhou Daocheng's body, it was already dawn. Even though he was full of true energy, he was exhausted. However, at the moment of possessing the ice snake spirit pattern, he could feel an extremely rich spiritual energy entering his body, and his strength also increased a lot. This is the energy that the woman with the red snake tattoo has been forced to accumulate in the ice snake for many years. When the ice snake left, it was also given to Zhou Daocheng. When everything was done, Zhou Daocheng was finally able to change his posture, climbed up from the ground, and stretched. But after just 2 seconds, his expression changed, and he fell back to the ground with a snap. This scene frightened the woman with the red snake tattoo. She quickly pushed him away and frowned, saying, "What are you doing? We forgot a very important question." Zhou Daocheng said seriously. "What?" The woman with the red snake tattoo was also shocked. Zhou Daocheng said seriously, "I don't have water spirit roots, nor ice spirit roots, what do I need an ice snake for?" The woman with the red snake tattoo. "What's your attribute?" "Water and fire spirit roots, but I'm more used to using fire snakes, you still, What are you doing?" "I want the fire snake. You should get used to the ice snake in the future." Zhou Daocheng did not hesitate and resumed his previous posture again, causing the woman with the red snake tattoo to frown and stare at Zhou Daocheng coldly. But in the end, for some reason, she did not resist and let Zhou Daocheng toss and turn the ice and fire snakes back. By the way, he also accumulated a ray of innate purple energy for himself. Zhou Daocheng rested for a while, letting his tired body recover his strength, and at the same time felt his gains this time. The most obvious thing was naturally the extra fire snake tattoo on his body, which appeared on his right shoulder. Compared with the red snake tattoo on the woman, it was less gentle and more ferocious and domineering. Moreover, he could vaguely feel that he should be able to control the power of the fire snake. The red snake should be a powerful spell. After all, the essence of the talisman is to use special means to keep the spell in the talisman paper. However, the power in the red snake should be able to reach the late stage of foundation building. With Zhou Daocheng's current strength, he cannot really control it. At most, he can only slightly control the power of the flame in it like the woman with the red snake tattoo, and use it in ordinary battles. But even so, Zhou Daocheng is already very satisfied, because this kind of flame is not an ordinary flame, it has extremely strong power, enough to greatly make up for the offensive ability. Moreover, it will be much easier to refine formations and formation materials in the future. In addition to the red snake, there are two other major changes, that is, the improvement of strength and the addition of an extra wisp of innate purple energy. He had just broken through to the first level of foundation establishment, but this night's experience had raised his level to the peak of the first level of foundation establishment, only one step away from the second level of foundation establishment. The improvement was so rapid that even Zhou Daocheng himself had an incredible feeling, but feeling the huge amount of qi in his body and his stronger strength, he couldn't help but feel joy on his face. The effect of sun and menstruation, coupled with the huge aura of the red snake tattoo, can have such an obvious effect. It took almost 6 or 7 years of hard work to reach such a state, which was no less effective than a Yuanling pill. If he directly swallows a Yuanling pill, at this time, there is a high probability that he can directly break through to the second level of foundation building, and may even directly reach the intermediate level of the second level of foundation building. This kind of cultivation speed improvement is enough to shock the world. However, the path of cultivation is not just about pursuing speed. It is very important to lay a good foundation, otherwise the magic power will be empty and it will easily affect future breakthroughs. Therefore, in a short period of time, there is a high probability that Zhou Daocheng will not be able to break through to the second level of foundation building. Finally, Zhou Daocheng turned his attention to the ray of innate purple energy in his body, and his eyes couldn't help but get excited. He has already experienced the function of innate purple energy. It is a spiritual creature that conquers the world. Once it appears in the world of immortality, it will inevitably cause a large number of monks to compete for it. The effect of the innate purple energy is also extremely terrifying. When used on elixirs and spiritual plants, an innate spiritual plant will be created. Used on monsters, it can change the bloodline and potential to a certain extent, and even allow the first-order high-grade monsters to break through to the second level, which is equivalent to creating a strong foundation builder. When used on magic weapons, talismans, and formations, there is a high probability that it will have a very strong effect, and some unexpected changes may occur. All in all, every ray of innate purple energy can greatly improve one's foundation. And he keenly discovered that the wisp of innate purple energy accumulated this time seemed to be larger than the previous one. If we say, the 2 strands accumulated before are only as thick as a hair. So now this wisp is twice as thick, and the aura is much richer, glowing with a faint purple brilliance, which is extremely mysterious. Zhou Daocheng thought about it and roughly guessed that the strength of both parties should have increased, which made the innate purple energy more intense. After all, when he and Zhao Yunji were accumulating innate purple energy, they were both in the qi refining period. But now, the strength of him and the woman with the red snake tattoo have both reached the foundation building stage, so it is inevitable that they will be different. Withdrawing his thoughts, Zhou Daocheng would study it slowly when he went back later, but there were more important things to deal with in front of him. He looked at the woman with the red snake tattoo. Their eyes met each other. Although they were still as cold as frost and without a trace of emotion, they were less tense. Ahem, please stop staring at me and put on your clothes. Hearing this, the woman with the red snake tattoo was just stunned, but she did not look ashamed or angry. She was still lying on the ground calmly. In sharp contrast with the gray-brown rocks, the light blue ice snake wrapped around her shoulders had a strange sense of beauty. He looked at the man in front of him quietly and said after a long time, "Last night was very brave, but why did you do this?" Zhou Daocheng put on the purple gown again. After hesitating for a moment, he said directly, "I killed Pan He." The woman with the red snake tattoo paused for a moment, looking a little surprised. "You can actually kill Pan He?" After thinking for a while, the woman with the red snake tattoo figured out the whole story and said clearly, "So, you killed Pan He because you were worried that I would turn against you, so you had to deal with me in advance. You are cruel enough. I just brought you the foundation establishment pill." Zhou Daocheng smiled and said, "I can't figure out the relationship between you and Pan He, so I have to make preparations in advance, but it seems that you don't care about his life and death very much, but he cares about you very much." The woman with the red snake tattoo looked indifferent, put her hands under her head, and spread her black hair on the rock, saying, when he was young, his family was wiped out and he was left alone in the wilderness. It was I who rescued him from the monster, and it's normal for him to have feelings for me if I take him to practice. A. Zhou Daocheng frowned and blurted out a question. Take him to practice when he was young. How old are you? The scene fell silent. The woman with the red snake tattoo visibly twitched her forehead, gritted her teeth and said, is there something wrong with what you are focusing on? Sorry, I just asked casually. Zhou Daocheng laughed. After having such an in-depth understanding last night, he actually knew a little bit about the bone age of the red snake tattoo. She should be in her early 30s. Compared to the lifespan of a foundation-building monk, she can only be regarded as a young girl. After all, age in the world of immortality cannot be compared with that of mortals. However, after hearing the words of the woman with the red snake tattoo, Zhou Daocheng was a little confused and said, according to your personality, how could you train Pan He for no reason? The woman with the red snake tattoo hesitated for a moment and said, he is a descendant of the monks of the Xuanian sect. He holds the key to the ruins of the Xuanian sect. According to him, the ruins are located in a place where yin gathers. The place of gathering yin. Do you want to use the yin qi of the place of gathering yin to suppress the ice snake in your body? Zhou Daocheng immediately wanted to understand the reason. Yes, and the Xuanian sect's techniques should also be able to suppress tattoos to a certain extent. I see, but you came back a little late. I have already explored the ruins, but now it seems there is no need for the ruins. The woman with the red snake tattoo looked at Zhou Daocheng in surprise, obviously not expecting that he had done so many things in the past 2 years. Kill Pan. Explore the ruins. Break through the foundation. Zhou Daocheng put on his clothes, looked at the woman with the red snake tattoo, and asked, since you are just using Pan He, then there is no conflict between us. We should stay in Wugu from now on, right? You're going to let me go after you finish eating. Well, then stay here and go out less often, otherwise we will be found by people from the secret talisman palace and both of us will die. Zhou Daocheng has learned from Pan He that the strength of the secret talisman palace is an extremely powerful Zifu sect, no weaker than the Qingshan sect. This kind of existence is far from comparable to today's Wugu. The woman with the red snake tattoo looked lazy, nodded slightly and said, okay, although you are weaker than me, after all, as an array master and controlling a city, you are still a figure. I will become a Taoist partner with you. It's not a loss either. A. Zhou Daocheng, who was tying his belt, was stunned for a moment, raised his eyebrows and said, well, I remember saying before that I have a family. Instantly, the whole cave was silent. In the next second, Zhou Daocheng saw a piece of white, and then he was kicked out of the cave by a pair of long legs. Only the cold sound remained. Beast, get out. Zhou Daocheng fell directly on his buttocks and touched his nose helplessly. After hesitating for a moment, he asked the cave, it's not appropriate to always call you the red snake tattoo woman. I wonder what your name is. After a long silence in the cave, a plain voice floated out. Fu Qingya. After returning to the spirit beast garden, Zhou Daocheng thought about what happened that night and felt very fortunate. The matter of the red snake tattoo woman was very tricky, but the final result was far more perfect than he imagined. This ending couldn't be better. Not only did both sides live in peace, but he also got a red snake, a wisp of innate purple energy, and a third-level foundation building expert for free. No, maybe it's not the third level of foundation building, but the fourth level, because when he left the cave, he should have felt that Fu Qingya's breath fluctuated abnormally, and there was a sign of breaking through the third level of foundation building. If he was in seclusion, there was a high probability of breaking through. The only thing that bothered him was that when he returned to the spiritual medicine valley in the morning, Zhao Yunji obviously noticed something, sniffed the smell carefully, and then rolled her eyes fiercely. In response, Zhou Daocheng could only smile guilty and secretly apologized in the evening. Now that he has returned to the cave, Zhou Daocheng calmed his emotions and thoughts, entered the state of cultivation, stabilized his newly improved cultivation, and at the same time adapted to his sudden increase in strength. The heavy Wu-Tu true qi, the liquid condensed in the body is more than doubled, which also means that the amount of true qi has increased significantly. At the same time, the characteristics of Wu-Tu Kun Yu Gong are still constantly compressing the quality of the true qi, making it thicker and longer, and the defensive ability is further improved. Even if it is the attack of a strong man in the third level of foundation building, he feels that he can resist it. But for now, there is still no effective means of attack and killing, and the enemy can only be killed by formations. However, Zhou Daocheng is not particularly worried, because after the foundation building period, Wutu Kun Yu Gong will have matching skills and magic tools, which will be the most powerful means for foundation building masters. Wutu Kun Yu Gong has a total of 3 spells in the foundation building period, corresponding to defense, trapping enemies, and attack, which can be said to be quite comprehensive. For most skills, there is only 1 set of spells in the foundation building period, and some with higher quality may have 2 sets of spells. The 3rd level upper grade, Wutu Kun Yu Gong, is obviously full of face, with a full 3 spells, and both offensive and defensive, enough to deal with most battles. Moreover, these 3 spells, even among the 2nd level spells, are definitely not low in quality, and their power belongs to the top batch. Among them, the spell used for defense is the most powerful and the most core spell, named Wutu Gui Yuan. Defense is the specialty of Wutu Kun Yu Gong. It can condense the power of Wutu and form a strong spiritual shield on the body surface, which is enough to easily resist spells and magic tools of the same level. Moreover, although Wutu Gui Yuan is the most powerful spell, it can be practiced directly at the 1st level of foundation building, and the defense ability will be further improved as the strength increases and the skills are more proficient. Therefore, Zhou Daocheng first chose to practice Wutu Gui Yuan, which is still mainly defensive. As for the enemy trapping spell, Mountain Sealing Prison, and the attack spell, Earth Splitting Power, they must be practiced after the strength reaches the middle stage of foundation building. Zhou Daocheng sighed helplessly. It seems that in the next period of time, he can only passively take a beating, and the means of attack are still very scarce. Fortunately, he got the red snake tattoo and could barely use the flame to attack, otherwise it would be a bit embarrassing. In addition, Zhou Daocheng also checked the magic tools that Wutu Kun Yu Gong can refine in the foundation building period. There are 2 in total. They are Earth Spirit Bell and Mountain and River Pearl, both of which are both offensive and defensive magic weapons. The former is of the 2nd grade middle quality, and the latter is of the 2nd grade upper quality. This is the first time that Zhou Daocheng is troubled by the high quality of the magic weapon. These 2 magic weapons are very powerful. No matter which one is used as the natal magic weapon, it can greatly improve his strength. Unfortunately, the quality of these 2 magic weapons is too high, and the materials required are extremely precious, and they cannot be collected in a short time. So after reading it once, Zhou Daocheng found helplessly that the only magic he could learn now was the Wutu Gui Yuan set of magic, and there was no room for selection at all. Forget it, it's better than nothing. This magic is indeed not weak, and in terms of potential, it is even more powerful than the other 2 magics. Zhou Daocheng comforted himself and began to calm down and concentrate on comprehending this magic. A few days later, the purple-clothed young man sat cross-legged on the futon, with a solemn and calm expression and a strong and tenacious breath. The Wu Earth Qi was drawn in the body, constantly flowing in the 4 meridians and 8 vessels, and the Qi became more and more condensed and powerful, and finally gradually formed a yellowish-brown light on the body surface, flowing with a heavy color, looking extremely thick and hard. It's done. Zhou Daocheng slowly opened his eyes, with a touch of joy. Feeling the yellowish-brown light shield in front of him, Zhou Daocheng felt the energy in it, and a look of amazement appeared in his eyes. He couldn't help but sigh. The light shield formed by Wu Earth returning to origin seems to be slightly stronger than the Blue Moon bracelet. The dominance of Wutu Kun Yu Gong finally began to show. The ultimate defensive ability made Zhou Daocheng almost invincible on the battlefield, and he could completely devote all his thoughts to the control of the formation. As for being approached by an enemy, sorry, I don't have any other specialties. My only characteristic is rough skin and thick flesh. The magical weapon Blue Moon Bracelet, coupled with the spell Wutu Gui Yuan, can block most attacks. No matter how bad things are, you still have a tough enough body. If you take a minor in Xuanian body refining technique, and use the body refining techniques in it to train your body, you can get another layer of protection. Zhou Daocheng couldn't help but smacked his lips. With these 3 layers of defense like a turtle shell, even if he stood and let others beat him, he would have to fight for a while. That's fine. If you don't have the means to attack, then there won't be any. After all, safety is the most important thing. Only when you are alive can you have the chance to attack. Zhou Daocheng is still very satisfied with his own situation. Besides, he doesn't need many attack methods, and formation is his best method. Looking at the time, the Spirit Snake sect has probably settled down. It won't be long before it's time to hold a celebration and leave. Zhou Daocheng thought silently in his heart, got up and walked out of the dim cave. Suddenly, the warm sunshine shone down, and Zhou Daocheng stretched himself comfortably, feeling extremely comfortable. Instead of leaving in a hurry, Zhou Daocheng first took a walk around the spiritual beast garden. The mirage cloud python sensed the movement and swam over quickly. Its snow-white scales were cleaned very cleanly. In addition, a small pond was built in the spiritual beast garden for the mirage cloud python to play. After nearly 2 years of growth, the mirage cloud python juvenile has grown a lot, reaching a length of about 1 meter, but its strength is still only the first level lower grade. The monster has a longer lifespan, so its strength increases slowly. Zhou Daocheng was not too worried and threw a piece of blood and flesh to the mirage cloud python. At this time, Zhou Daocheng found that the mirage cloud python seemed to be raised very well, and it was already plump and looked very round. It should be that it lacked exercise in the spiritual beast garden, and Zhao Yunji often fed it too much, which caused it to gain some weight recently. Zhou Daocheng rubbed the mirage cloud python's head and found it very soft. The scales were not particularly hard, and because of the growth of flesh, it felt very soft to the touch. Raised from childhood, the mirage cloud python has a very gentle personality. It allowed Zhou Daocheng to stroke it, and its eyes narrowed slightly. It has obviously lost its wildness and become a spiritual beast. Perhaps after a few decades, the strength of the mirage cloud python will be able to be upgraded to the first-class upper grade. By then, it will have good strength and can barely be regarded as a spiritual beast to protect the clan. After checking the white-feathered spiritual chickens again, it was found that the number had increased to more than 20. They were still quietly staying in the chicken coop, pecking at the spiritual grains on the ground. The quality of this spiritual bird is very good, and it can provide chicken feathers, and eggs, 3 precious materials. Because the number is relatively small, most of the time it is not sold, but used by itself. The chicken feathers are directly sent to the spiritual equipment pavilion and used as materials for refining. Many arrow-like magic tools need this kind of chicken feathers. Chicken and eggs are rich in spirituality, and they will be eaten by themselves to improve their usual meals. Zhou Daocheng walked into the chicken coop and found a thatched house built next to the chicken coop. There were already a lot of spiritual eggs stored in it, almost 100. They should all be taken care of and stored by Zhao Yunji. Whether it is eaten by Zhou Daocheng, the Zhou family, or some of Zhou Daoshou's children, they will be taken from here. Zhou Daocheng planned that he should be able to continue to expand the number of this kind of spiritual bird, preferably to breed it on a large scale, increase the supply of chicken and spiritual eggs, and it will definitely be a good income. After a simple inspection, Zhou Daocheng came to the ant nest of the purple-armored swallowing spirit ant, which is also the most important monster in the entire spirit beast garden. Zhou Daocheng had not checked the situation of the ant nest for a while. Now, as soon as he got in, he was shocked by the situation in front of him. The entrance to the cave seems small, but the space inside is very wide. A large part of the mountain has been hollowed out and built into an ant nest. A large number of lavender ants can be seen coming and going, carrying various foods and spiritual items into the ant nest, like a tight army. And it can be clearly felt that the strength of these purple-armored soul-swallowing ants has increased a lot, especially the individuals of the first-level middle and first-level upper grades. The number has increased significantly. Zhou Daocheng came to the core of the ant nest and found the queen ant. He found that its body size had grown a lot, and its strength should have increased a lot, which is equivalent to the second-level cultivator of the foundation building stage. It can be seen that during this period of time, it should have absorbed a lot of spiritual honey, so its strength has increased so quickly. As its strength increased, the queen ant's wisdom also increased rapidly, and it was able to communicate normally with Zhou Daocheng through spiritual consciousness. Zhou Daocheng also learned about the current situation of the ant nest through inquiries, and couldn't help but sigh at the rapid reproduction speed of this kind of spiritual insect. The number of the entire purple-armored soul-swallowing ant colony has reached more than 50,000. Among them, more than 40,000 are all in the early stage of the first level, which is equivalent to the first to third levels of the qi refining stage. Their strength is not very strong, and they are mainly used to collect food and provide a large amount of spiritual honey for the ant colony. Moreover, the appearance of this group of purple-armored spirit-swallowing ants has changed a lot. Their heads have become very small, their buttocks are flat and wide, and they also have the ability to generate heat, which can quickly form spiritual water beads on their backs and collect them as spiritual honey. Their daily task is to come to the valley with rich spiritual energy, continuously collect spiritual liquid, and collect spiritual honey for the ant colony. Zhou Daocheng also specially checked the spiritual honey stored by the ant colony. In the cave behind the ant eggs, a whole wall was piled up, all of which were high quality and spiritual honey with rich spiritual energy. It is almost as much as the previous spirit-swallowing ant colony, and the quality of the spiritual honey is even higher, because the concentration of spiritual energy in the area where the valley is located is extremely high, which improves the quality of the spiritual honey to a certain extent, but it lacks some floral and fruity fragrance. Because the previous spirit-swallowing ant colony mainly collected spiritual substances in tree sap, nectar, and spiritual medicine, so it was relatively fragrant, but now it is completely spiritual and mellow. There are about 10,000 purple armored spirit swallowing ants in the first stage, middle stage. Generally speaking, they no longer collect spirit honey, but serve as protectors of the entire tribe, stationed in various areas of the ant nest. If they encounter powerful monsters outside, they will also send purple armored spirit swallowing ants in the first stage, middle stage to clean them up. The appearance of purple armored spirit swallowing ants at this level has also changed a little, and the purple lines on their bodies are more intense, indicating that their shells have extremely strong defensive capabilities and are not weak in fire and water resistance. And their forelimbs and mouthparts are very sharp and powerful, and they already have good combat power. When they encounter ordinary first stage, mid stage monsters, they only need 2 or 3 to work together to easily take them down. Even if they fight alone with monsters of the same level, the purple armored soul-swallowing ants can rely on their own hard armor to barely remain invincible. Even if they can't beat them, they will definitely have no problem escaping. And once the number rises to more than 3, with mutual cooperation, the combat power will rise sharply. Even for cultivators in the middle stage of qi refining, there is a great danger. And in terms of body size alone, the purple armored soul-swallowing ants are more than twice as large as the ordinary soul-swallowing ants in the past. Ordinary soul-swallowing ants, in the middle stage of the first stage, are about the size of an adult's fist, and can only rely on group combat, and their individual strength is very weak. But the size of the purple armored soul-swallowing ants has now reached the size of their heads, and their strength is very good. Finally, Zhou Daocheng also saw more than 50 purple armored soul-swallowing ants in the late stage of the first stage, with a body size of about half a meter, or even larger. Its combat power is also even stronger. Its purple shell can withstand first-grade, top-grade talismans and magical instruments, and its attack power can easily break through the defense of a cultivator in the late qi refining stage. It is not weaker than cultivators and monsters of the same level. These 50-odd purple armored soul-devouring ants are equivalent to more than 50 cultivators in the late stage of qi refining. They are definitely a very powerful force, a fighting force hidden in the depths of the fog valley. The soul-devouring ants in the late stage of the first stage stay in the depths of the ant nest most of the time, surrounding the queen ant, as a kind of guard, to ensure the safety of the queen ant. Generally speaking, they are also the most powerful group of existences in the entire ant colony. However, one thing must be mentioned, that is, the earliest second stage soul-devouring ant died several months ago, which was a natural death of old age. So now there is only one second stage purple armored soul-devouring ant left in the ant colony, the queen ant. The strongest of the rest is only in the late stage of the first stage. Zhou Daocheng asked the queen ant if it was possible to cultivate a second stage purple armored soul-devouring ant. With the blood of the purple armored soul-devouring ant, once it breaks through to the second stage, it will inevitably undergo a great change, and the strength it possesses may not be much worse than that of a cultivator in the first stage of foundation building. Even if it is not as good as a foundation building cultivator, it is far better than a 9th level qi refining cultivator. It is definitely a very powerful force, and it is also a powerful force that can be mass-produced. However, the answer of the queen ant still disappointed Zhou Daocheng, not for the time being. According to the queen ant, at least in the short term, he is not able to cultivate the second-level purple armored soul-swallowing ants. In this regard, Zhou Daocheng also specifically asked whether he could use the previous second-level spiritual honey to feed these first-level peak purple armored soul-swallowing ants to further improve their strength. Or with the help of some elixirs, such as the first-level top-grade soul-feeding elixir, to break through the second level. But the queen ant denied them all one by one, and explained, the limit of the individual strength of the purple armored soul-swallowing ants has been determined when they lay eggs, and cannot be changed by acquired factors. If a first-level early ant colony is needed, the queen ant will specifically hatch the first-level early ant eggs. The blood and potential contained in them can only support them to reach the first level early stage, and they cannot continue to improve. Similarly, if you need to cultivate the first stage late purple armored soul swallowing ants, you will also hatch the corresponding ant eggs, and the inherited blood and potential can only support them to reach the first stage late stage. Therefore, if you want to cultivate the second stage purple armored soul swallowing ants, you should directly find a way from the queen ant to let it hatch ants with second stage blood. However, with the current strength of the queen ant, it is not possible to do this for the time being. As for the first stage late purple armored soul swallowing ants, the best they can do is the peak of the first stage, which is equivalent to the strength of the 9th level of qi refining. After understanding the principle, Zhou Daocheng no longer insisted. It seems that like human cultivators, it is also very difficult for monsters to reach the second stage. However, although he can't get the second stage soul swallowing ants, he can still improve the strength of the first stage late purple armored soul swallowing ants. The purple armored soul swallowing ants that have just reached the first stage late stage have only the strength of the 7th level of qi refining, but their limit is equivalent to the 9th level of qi refining. Therefore, after a moment of deliberation, Zhou Daocheng took out the 2nd level spiritual honey and 5 first level high quality spiritual feeding pills, mixed them together and crushed them, then added some spiritual liquid to feed the first level late stage purple armored spirit swallowing ants. After all of them were consumed, some of the purple armored spirit swallowing ants lay down on the spot and fell into a deep sleep. The rich spiritual energy and medicinal power began to take effect, further improving their strength. Zhou Daocheng estimated that there should be some first-level peak individuals, and the overall strength will be greatly improved. Now, from the overall point of view, the comprehensive strength of this ant colony is already very strong. Tens of thousands of cultivators in the early and middle stages of qi training, plus nearly 50 cultivators in the late stage of qi training, can barely deal with a few strong people who have just broken through the foundation building stage. More importantly, with the current strength, it can easily clear the first-level monsters that invaded the Fog Valley, and can cooperate with other foundation-building strong people to besiege the second-level monsters. Therefore, after thinking for a while, Zhou Daocheng asked the queen ant to expand the patrol range of the ant colony, allowing them to enter the outer area and hunt the monsters in the mountains. Before this, Zhou Daocheng was worried that the ant colony could not defeat the monsters, so he had been strictly restricting their range of action and only allowed them to stay around the Spirit Beast Garden. However, with the current strength, there is no need to worry. The queen ant also agreed directly. Invasion and hunting are also the favorite ways of expansion for the ant colony. They will also bring them a lot of spiritual resources, and can also consume some of the old purple armored swallowing ants, making the ant colony healthier. After making such arrangements, Zhou Daocheng can also see a large number of ant colonies, starting to leave the scope of the Spirit Beast Garden, and spread to the east. With the help of the purple armored swallowing ants, the pressure on my brother and Xie Zhouhei should be reduced a lot. At least the weaker first-level monsters don't have to be cleared away with great effort. Zhou Daocheng thought in his heart, and also considered the future development of Fog Valley. If such a huge Wugu mountain range is to be supervised and managed by monks, it will be a very troublesome matter. But if it is handed over to the purple armored spirit devouring ants, things will be much simpler. Moreover, there are strong foundation builders and Wugu monks stationed in the Wugu, which can guarantee safety to a certain extent. Now there are a large number of purple armored spirit devouring ants stationed underground, and the overall safety will be greatly improved, which can avoid many hidden dangers. Zhou Daocheng went to the spiritual medicine garden again and checked the situation of the spiritual medicine. He found that the production trend was very strong, and it looked like it had just been fertilized and watered. It should be Zhou Daoyuan and the other 4 who were responsible for taking care of it. Among them, the purple spirit bamboo has officially expanded into a small bamboo forest, with a total of 5 second-level purple spirit bamboos. Among them, the highest quality has reached the peak of the second-level middle grade, and is not far from the second-level upper grade. It is surrounded by a faint purple spiritual energy, and the green bamboo trunk is like jade, with a warm luster, and each leaf is like a work of art. The other 4 are second-generation purple spirit bamboo. After all of them reached the second level, they also began to release spiritual energy, so the concentration of spiritual energy around them is very rich, and with a fragrance of bamboo. If you live around the bamboo forest, it will definitely be of great benefit to your cultivation. What is even more gratifying is that there are 13 small bulges on the ground, with tender green shoots emerging, which makes people feel refreshed. Once these bamboo shoots grow up, there will be a total of 18 purple spirit bamboos. If all of them reach the second level and can absorb and exhale spiritual energy, then the spiritual energy concentration of the entire spiritual medicine garden will inevitably increase significantly. Conservatively speaking, it should not be worse than the effect of the mist spirit grass, which is equivalent to a small second-level upper-grade spiritual vein, and it is also a spiritual vein that can continue to expand and bring economic benefits. At the same time, Zhou Daocheng was also considering whether to use the purple qi green spirit bamboo to set up the formation. Even if you want to set up a second-level formation, it seems that you don't necessarily have to use the purple air green bamboo. After all, this spiritual plant that uses the innate purple air has enough significance. Especially its function of absorbing and exhaling spiritual energy. Once it forms a scale, its significance is no weaker than the second-level formation, and it is even stronger. Set up a formation. The same is true for collecting other second-level materials. So after considering the pros and cons, Zhou Daocheng did not cut down the purple air green bamboo, but continued to stay here and slowly cultivate the bamboo forest. Moreover, this bamboo forest itself has considerable value. In addition to being able to release a steady stream of spiritual energy, it can also transform the surrounding soil into spiritual fields, and the fallen bamboo leaves are also very precious resources. These bamboo leaves can be used to make growth liquid, or as fertilizer, and watered on other spiritual medicines. Usually, Zhou Daoyuan and the other four will collect these bamboo leaves and take care of these spiritual medicines after practicing. Zhou Daocheng walked around and made sure that everything was normal. He taught the 4 children in the spiritual medicine garden and had a meal. Just as he was about to return to the cave, Wei Hanshan also found him. Senior, there is news from the Spirit Snake sect that they have completed all the relocation matters and officially settled in Black Snake Mountain. They invited us in Wugu to participate in their celebration in about 2 months. Should we send someone over? This speed is fast enough. Zhou Daocheng sighed and arranged. We are on good terms with each other, so we must participate in the celebration. Elder Wei, please arrange a gift for me, and I will leave soon. Okay, I will arrange it right away, but, Elder Wei, just speak frankly, why are you being polite to me? Wei Hanshan nodded and said. The Spirit Snake sect also invited Senior Zhou and Senior Xie, as well as all the brothers who participated in the cleanup of Black Snake Mountain. Zhou Daocheng smiled and said, the leader of the Spirit Snake sect is just being polite. There is no need for everyone to go. Find a few representatives, prepare generous gifts for them, and go with me. Quote. After saying that, he seemed to have thought of something, and then added, by the way, my gift will be the second level, Yuanling pill, plus some second level monster materials. As for other people's gifts, they will all be the first level top grade, Ningfa pill. Quote. Wei Hanshan nodded silently and wrote all of this down. Zhou Daocheng understood that although Wei Hanshan had a way of dealing with various things, he was a casual cultivator after all, and he was still a little unfamiliar with the various ways between the sect and the family, so it was necessary to arrange it carefully. Things like celebrations and sending gifts are knowledge that almost every family member needs to learn. The gift does not need to be too heavy, but it must be appropriate. If the gift is not given correctly, it may affect the relationship between the two parties. The gifts chosen by Zhou Daocheng are all relatively expensive and common elixirs that are very popular in the market. Whether they are taken by themselves or sold, they are very, very suitable. After a few days of rest, Zhou Daocheng also set out on the journey to the Spirit Snake sect. He went with 2 members of the hunting team at the 9th level of Qi refining, Lu Chengzhou and Lin Yuan. In theory, he should have brought his Taoist partner, Zhao Yunji, with him, but he was worried that the Zhou family's identity would be exposed, so he chose to go alone in the end. It took half a month on the road to cross the vast mountains and arrive near the 100 insects poison swamp. However, after arriving at the destination, because the terrain was too complicated, Zhou Daocheng spent several days to accurately find the location of the Black Snake Mountain of the Spirit Snake sect. From a distance, it was completely different from the first time I saw it. The vast mountains were cleared, and a large number of buildings rose from the ground, decorating the entire Black Snake Mountain, looking solemn and mysterious in the lingering clouds. And it can be vaguely seen that many monks of the Spirit Snake sect came and went, busy on the mountain, a lively scene. As Zhou Daocheng approached the mountain gate, he saw a man rushing to greet him. It was Elder Han Yi, whom he was familiar with. Meet Senior Lord of Fog Valley. Zhou Daocheng waved his hand, don't bother me. We are old friends. Take me in. Han Yi grinned and respectfully welcomed Zhou Daocheng in. Looking at the luxurious mountain gate, the beautifully decorated halls and houses, Zhou Daocheng had to sigh at the generosity of the spirit snake sect. He spent only a few months to build such a huge sect. Moreover, the construction of sect buildings is completely different from the construction of ordinary mortal houses. A large amount of high-quality spiritual wood and ore are required. The fact that it can be completed in such a short time is enough to show that the Spirit Snake sect has a deep foundation and has been preparing for the relocation of the sect a long time ago. There is even a high probability that the leader of the Spirit Snake sect has already begun to consider the relocation of the Spirit Snake sect when he was still participating in the war. As for the rebellion of the Wang family of Qianyan Mountain and the enmity with Qingshan sect, it was just an opportunity for the Lingxi sect to speed up its migration. While thinking, Zhou Daocheng walked into the Lingxi sect. A quarter of an hour later, in the mountainside hall of the Lingxi sect, he saw the Lingxi sect leader Qin Chengyu. I thought he would be very busy. After all, he had to handle various affairs in the sect, and everything needed to be reviewed by him personally. It was hard not to be busy. Just like before, when the Zhou family of Tianqi Mountain moved to Shenline Mountain, various ceremonies were indispensable, such as ancestor worship and other matters, almost all of which were indispensable. However, when Zhou Daocheng saw him, he found that the Lingxi sect leader was lying comfortably in the hall, eating fruit casually, without any sign of fatigue. Zhou Daocheng asked curiously, "Fellow Taoist Qin, are you still so free for such a big event as the sect relocation celebration?" Qin Chengyu ate a grape and replied with concern, "I don't know how to do it, the elders are responsible." Suddenly, Zhou Daocheng was also a little speechless. This is the benefit of inheriting the father's business. Most of the elders of the Spirit Snake sect are the same group of old people who followed Qin Chengyu's father. Many of them are his father's apprentices or junior brothers. Then they watched Qin Chengyu grow up. They are equivalent to his elders, so naturally they take care of everything for him. These elders are busy all day and night, and Qin Chengyu is comfortable. He only needs to grasp the general direction. Qin Chengyu smiled and waved, saying, "Sit down, my friend. I only invited you and the leader of the Disha sect to the celebration. We'll start when everyone is here. Don't be shy." Quote question mark question mark question mark quote. Zhou Daocheng's mouth twitched, and he asked in disbelief, "You only invited me and the leader of the Disha sect to the sect migration celebration. What else? Don't you have any allies? You guys." Zhou Daocheng felt it was unbelievable. The relationship network of the Spirit Snake sect was too innocent, and he couldn't help asking, "Then you don't have any forces for marriage?" The leader of the Spirit Snake sect thought for a while and said, "Not currently, but if you are willing, we can connect in the future." Zhou Daocheng. He didn't know what to say for a moment, but any force that could survive in the world of immortality would more or less have its own allies or partners, and no matter how bad it was, there would be marriages. The Zhou family actually suffered a loss in this regard back then. They had no really close allies, but they still had some marriage partners, but they were not closely connected with each other. However, when there are occasional celebrations, more than a dozen small families will come one after another, and it will not be as shabby as the Spirit Snake sect today. But then I thought about it, and it seemed that there was really no one from the Spirit Snake sect to invite. After all, after moving to this place where birds don't eat shit, where can I send invitations? Even if there were familiar forces before, they are probably all gone now. But this way, the originally complicated celebration became extremely simple. Zhou Daocheng directly threw the gift to the leader of the Spirit Snake sect and found a place to sit down. Almost a few hours later, the leader of the Disha sect arrived, and the leader of the Spirit Snake sect did not hesitate to prepare a variety of whole foods and entertain the two of them generously. This simple celebration is not so much a celebration as it is a banquet for the three parties to deepen their relationship and enhance their cooperation, taking this opportunity to better bind each other. The effect was also very good. The three of them drank and exchanged glasses, and they got to know each other a lot. They also proposed many cooperation plans for future development. For example, three parties can jointly send teams, explore the 100 Insects Poison Swamp and the Great Eastern Wilderness together. Or the three parties can act as an alliance and cooperate with more powerful forces to seek greater benefits and develop together. Or, they can also find new spiritual veins together, and after jointly cleaning them up, other new industries can be developed. No matter which one it is, it can ensure that after cooperation, each other will have stronger strength and do things that could not be done before, thereby gaining benefits. However, the leader of the spirit snake sect is happiest than moving the sect to a safe area. After drinking for 3 rounds, the leader of the spirit snake sect looked slightly tipsy and exclaimed in high spirits, "Ha ha ha, no matter how fierce the fight between the Qingshan sect and the Qianyanshan Wang family is, our spirit snake sect will definitely not be involved, so let's just settle down. Wouldn't it be nice to hide in the mountains with peace of mind and watch them fight to the death?" Ha 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 ha. Zhou Daocheng raised his eyebrows and said, "Fellow Taoist Qin is so confident. I remember that the Wang family in Qianyan Mountain has been retreating to the east, and maybe they will also reach the vicinity of Baichong Poison Marsh. Don't worry, I have already considered it. The possibility of this is extremely low. With the strength of the Qianyan Mountain Wang family alone, they will never dare to clean up the 100 insect poison swamp when facing the Qingshan sect. At most, they can just wandering around the perimeter," Qin Chengyu said firmly. Zhou Daocheng thought for a while, and it seemed to be true. The current situation of the Wang family in Qianyan Mountain was that they had to fully control the situation and deal with the Qingshan sect's counterattack. How could they still come to Baichong Poison Marsh to find trouble? But just as he finished speaking, the communication stone on the waist of Lin Xiaoyuan, the leader of the Disha sect, suddenly lit up. Lin Xiaoyuan took it out and took a look. After just one glance, his expression became strange, and then he looked at Qin Chengyu with some sympathy. Qin Chengyu was originally calm and composed, but after being stared at by Lin Xiaoyuan for a few seconds, he asked unnaturally, "What's the matter, fellow Taoist Lin? Why are you staring at me?" Lin Xiaoyuan hesitated to speak, opened and closed his mouth several times, and finally uttered only one sentence. "It's not Lin's ink, but I'm afraid that if I say this, it may make fellow Taoist Qin sad." Qin Chengyu raised his eyebrows. "Qin, what scene have I not seen? Even on the battlefield, I am fearless when facing the strong men of Zifu. Let me see what's going on." Lin Xiaoyuan handed out the communication stone in his hand and looked at it in front of Zhou Daocheng and Qin Chengyu. Their expressions changed drastically. Qin Chengyu couldn't help but exclaimed, "How is it possible? Is your information accurate?" Lin Xiaoyuan sighed and said, "This news should not be top secret. With the channels you two have, you should be able to receive the news soon." To prevent himself from misunderstanding, Zhou Daocheng carefully checked the contents again. After confirming that it was correct, his face was equally uncertain. Later, he looked at Qin Chengyu with some sympathy, patted his feet heavily, sighed and said, "Fellow Taoist Qin, you don't have to be too sad. After all, things are unpredictable, and we don't know how things will develop." As for Qin Chengyu, the colors were also surprisingly good-looking, with green, white, and black at one time, like a palette. In the end, he cursed directly, then turned around and left without looking back, obviously to confirm the accuracy of the news. The content on Lin Xiaoyuan's communication stone is an announcement from the Qianyan Mountain Wang family to unite with the Tian Puppet Tang family. In today's sensitive atmosphere, any announcement issued by the two Zifu forces. The content information is also very simple. The Qingshan sect has a cruel character and oppresses the forces within the territory. The Qianyanshan Wang family and the Tian Puppet Tang family have formed an alliance and will jointly fight against the Qingshan sect. Of course, this is not the most important thing. What follows is what makes Qin Chengyu lose his composure. The two major forces will join forces to clean up the 100 insect poison swamp and build a large-scale city here, Donglinfang City, using this as a foundation to fight against the Qingshan sect. Also, send an invitation to all the surrounding foundation building forces to join the alliance between the Wang family and the Tang family to fight against the Qingshan sect. After seeing the contents, it was not only the leader of the Spirit Snake sect who wanted to curse, but also Zhou Daocheng and Lin Xiaoyuan. The leader of the Spirit Snake sect is just the closest to the 100 insect poison swamp, but they are not far away, right? Once the two major Purple Mansion forces fully enter the 100 insects poison swamp, the Disha sect and Wugu will inevitably be affected, and it is absolutely impossible to stay out of the matter. Is it possible that the Disha sect and Wugu should also be moved to find an area far away from the war? Let us not talk about whether we can find a suitable spiritual vein. Just talking about this huge amount of migration is definitely not something that can be completed in a short time. For a moment, the atmosphere became extremely depressing. Lin Xiaoyuan's face was gloomy, and he spoke another message. Some time ago, the Qingshan sect also issued an announcement to recruit all the foundation building forces in the territory to jointly attack the Qianyan Mountain Wang family. Zhou Daocheng nodded slightly and said, "Now the Wang family and the Tang family are not willing to be outdone and choose to confront each other. It seems that things are in trouble. The two major forces recruit foundation building forces at the same time. Is it because they really lack combat power? No, they are actually sending out a signal, forcing all foundation building forces to take sides. It is also to avoid being taken advantage of by these weak foundation building forces after the two major Zifu forces fight to the death. Therefore, preparations are made in advance to draw all the foundation building forces into the vortex of war and stand in line in advance. In this case, one has to choose either the Qingshan sect or the Wang family and the Tang family. It is absolutely impossible to stay out of the matter. If in this situation, there is a force that refuses to surrender to anyone and chooses to sit on the sidelines with a neutral attitude, then there is only one outcome. That is to get rid of him before the two major purple forces start a war to avoid future troubles. Not long after, the leader of the Spirit Snake sect came back, his face extremely gloomy, and it seemed that he had confirmed that the news was correct. Zhou Daocheng pursed his lips helplessly and said comfortingly, "Fellow Taoist Qin, you don't have to feel too bad. Not only your Spirit Snake sect, but our Wugu and Disha sects will most likely not be able to escape either." Lin Xiaoyuan also said, "Yes, the previous alliance was just verbal, but looking at the current situation, we are really a grasshopper on a rope." Qin Chengyu's expression softened slightly, but he still sighed deeply and rubbed his brows with difficulty, obviously feeling very heavy. After all, so much effort was put into relocating the entire sect to the vicinity of 100 Insect Poison Marsh in order to avoid war and ensure safety. If we didn't expect that it would be such a result, then no one would be able to accept it. After calming down, Qin Chengyu let out a long sigh and said in a deep voice, "There is a high probability that we will not be able to escape from this matter. We should all think about what we should choose." Zhou Daocheng pondered for a moment and said, "Between the Qingshan sect and the Wang family, do we still have a choice?" Hearing this, Lin Xiaoyuan and Qin Chengyu were both stunned, then smiled helplessly. Because for them, there is really no choice, because the Wang family of Qianyan Mountain and the Tang family of Tian Puppet will soon come to Baichong Poison Swamp, join forces to clean up the place, and build a large-scale market. With such a close distance, the three of them had no choice but to seek refuge with the Wang family of Qianyan Mountain, with no other choice at all. Lin Xiaoyuan smiled helplessly and said, "Fortunately, the three of us formed an alliance in advance, and now we have some confidence. If we join forces and join the Wang family, the treatment should not be too bad." Zhou Daocheng nodded. The three forces of Disha sect, Spirit Snake sect, and Wugu combined together have nearly 10 or more strong foundation builders. Even for the Zifu forces, they are a strong fighting force. Zhou Daocheng thought for a while and said seriously, "Two fellow Taoists, since we have no choice and cannot escape, why not choose the most advantageous way and join the Wang family?" "The most advantageous way? What way?" Lin Xiaoyuan asked thoughtfully. The three of us joined forces and immediately responded to the Wang family's solicitation and took the lead in joining their alliance. With the personalities of the two Zifu families, they will definitely take more care of us. Not to mention seeking benefits, at least we will not be tricked. Zhou Daocheng explained. After listening, Lin Xiaoyuan and Qin Chengyu fell into deep thought, constantly weighing the pros and cons. Qin Chengyu frowned and reminded, "Little friend, do we need to be the first to do so? If we do this seriously, we will indeed win the favor of the Wang family, but the Qingshan sect will definitely hate us. I am afraid that in the end we will end up stealing the chicken but losing the rice, which will be self-defeating." No, I agree with the opinion of the Lord of Foggy Valley. Unexpectedly, after Lin Xiaoyuan thought for a moment, he agreed with Zhou Daocheng's statement and explained, "Whether we are leaders or not, if we join the Wang family's camp, we will definitely be hated by the Qingshan sect. Is it possible that we still have high hopes for the Qingshan sect? Give us some mercy. Now that we have reached this point, it is natural that people will be punished by heaven and earth for their own sake. If we can make a fortune from the Qianyanshan Wang family, we will all make money. If the situation worsens later, at worst, we can continue to run. Go to if we dig into the eastern great wilderness, it's impossible for the Qingshan sect to fight us." As soon as these words came out, Zhou Daocheng was speechless for a moment, sighing in his heart that Lin Xiaoyuan's nearly 100-year-old life was really not in vain. The idea of cutting meat like this is really a bad idea, but for today's three parties, it is still the best method. Since you can't dodge, just rush forward, and the result will not be much worse no matter how bad it is. Forget it, since it has come to this point, let's just follow what you two said. Qin Chengyu gritted his teeth and finally agreed heartily. The person who needs the most courage is actually the leader of the spirit snake sect, Qin Chengyu. After all, the situation was like this. In this vast wilderness of barren mountains, he suddenly found the spiritual vein near the 100 insect poison swamp, but he happened to hit the window. Anyone could escape, but the spirit snake sect could not escape. Now, Zhou Daocheng and Lin Xiaoyuan are willing to accompany him to join the Wang family, and he can still rely on them. However, if Zhou Daocheng and Lin Xiaoyuan take a step back, the situation he faces will only become more difficult. After this incident, they had no intention of continuing the celebration. After a brief conversation, the three of them returned to their respective stations with heavy expressions. This matter is related to future development and even affects life and death. There is really no room for their carelessness. 3 days later, the three finally gritted their teeth and made a decision. They immediately responded to the solicitations from the Wang family of Qianyan Mountain and the Tang family of Tianpuppet. At such a tense moment, they became the first three major forces to speak out. Lin Xiaoyuan, the leader of the Disha sect, the elder of the Disha sect, Qin Chengyu, the leader of the Spirit Snake sect, the lord of Wugu, Zhou Daobai, and Xie Zhouhei, that is, all the foundation building experts of the three forces, jointly issued an announcement, and the three forces joined forces to join forces. Support the Wang and Tang alliance. When this news came out, it was a shock. Previously, when the three major Purple Mansion forces confronted each other and issued announcements to recruit, except for the foundation building forces that had already surrendered to these three forces, other forces were watching from the sidelines and did not dare to make a choice easily. After all, it was a matter of life and death, and no one wanted to make a decision, let alone easily participate in such a war, because if they were not careful, it would be a situation of no return. But no one expected that in such a critical situation, there were actually three forces that were so stubborn and broke the calm situation. For a time, all forces in the entire Qingshan sect were boiling. Whether it was a small force with one foundation building expert or a large force with 7 or 8 foundation building experts, they couldn't help but curse, "What a fucking liquor. Where did this bastard force come from? Why did they come out to curry favor at this time? Do they think the situation is not chaotic enough?" Humph, originally everyone kept silent, and the three Purple Mansion forces would not say anything. Now that they have disrupted the situation, they are simply putting other forces on the fire. Quote. However, in the midst of various opinions, Zhou Daocheng and the other two not only did not retreat, but chose to add fuel to the fire. The three parties took the initiative to send a joint team to the 100 Insect Poison Marsh. They are willing to serve as a pawn for the Wang family of Qianyan Mountain and serve as the vanguard to clean up the monsters in the 100 Insect Poison Marsh. Wugyufeng City even said that it has made every effort to prepare a batch of building materials, spiritual grains, elixirs and formations for the Wang family of Qianyan Mountain to settle in the 100 Insect Poison Swamp. Such behavior of licking a dog immediately made many people shut up, not because of admiration, but because they were really speechless. Three foundation building forces that are not very strong, cleaning up the 100 Insect Poison Swamp for the Z Mansion forces. A small market that provides supplies for a large market. Who are you kidding? You can't even fool yourself. However, it does not matter whether they have the strength to clean up the 100 Insect Poison Swamp. It doesn't even matter whether the team they sent actually entered the 100 Insect Poison Swamp, at least their attitude is here. Does not the Qianyanshan Wang family know whether Wugyufeng City can provide these resources? But showing this attitude is really giving enough face, which is equivalent to telling everyone that they, the forces closest to the 100 Insect Poison Swamp, have opened their doors to welcome the arrival of the Wang family of Qianyan Mountain. Such shameless behavior made many well-educated family members want to curse. But under the current circumstances, they really don't dare to scold. After all, do you really think that the Qianyanshan Wang family is vegetarian? After finally gaining a loyal follower, it was too late for him to protect him. How could it be the turn of other forces to bully him? Nominally, the Wang family of Qianyan Mountain is in the Qingshan sect's territory, but they betrayed the Qingshan sect and colluded with outsiders to kill the strong Qingshan sect. Now that the two sides are at war, the Wang family is not responsible at all. What the Wang family urgently needs is to change the reputation. No matter what method is used, try to make some foundation building forces choose the Wang family. Although the strong men of Zifu are important, the frontal battlefield still needs the support of strong foundation building men, which is indispensable. A. The Wang family in Qianyan Mountain. Wang Shangzong, the old man of the Wang family's Zifu clan, looked at the message in his hand, His expression was filled with joy. He looked up to the sky and laughed and said, "Ha ha 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 ha. It's really great that these three forces have come to my Wang family at this time." Next to him, another middle-aged man with strong momentum couldn't help but sigh, "What a blessing for my Wang family. We have joined forces with the Tian Puppet Tang family, and the strong men of the Z family are already able to compete with each other. The only difference is their background. Before, I was worried that the Qingshan sect, relying on its thousands of years of foundation, would follow a large number of foundation-building forces at the same time. But now that these three forces are taking the lead, and we can add more favors, it will be enough to equalize the huge disadvantage." "Good." Wang Shangzong's eyes narrowed and he said with a smile, "Help us clean up the 100 insect poison swamp. Provide us with logistical resource support. Regardless of whether we can do it or not, our Wang family accepts this offer. Yunli, please immediately make arrangements to select 3 second-level middle-grade magic weapons from the family treasury and send them to the 3 parties in person to express the attitude of our Wang family." Wang Yunli looked stunned and said, "As the head of the Wang family, I'm afraid it's not appropriate to go there in person. No, now is the most critical time. Many foundation-building forces are wavering. If you personally come forward and show respect to these 3 forces, it will be an excellent commendation and also show that our Wang family is thirsty for talents. Determination." Wang Yunli's eyes lit up when he heard this, and he quickly bowed and said, "I will follow the patriarch's instructions. Yunli will do it now." Heavenly Puppet Tang family. Tang Yuanjin, the leader of the Zifu clan, looked at the information in his hand and smiled. "The Wang family is so lucky. Maybe we can really compete with the Qingshan sect in the future." Looking up at the beautiful mountains and rivers outside the window, the head of the Tang family looked deeply. "It's been thousands of years, maybe it's time to change the owner of this area." Qingshan sect. The master of the sect, Qingshan Zhenren, had a gloomy face and angry eyes, and said, "A group of eating beasts live in our Qingshan sect's territory, but they do unkind and unjust things. After we deal with the Wang family's traitors, we will deal with these ants." On the side, an old man with gray hair frowned and said, "Qingshan, the war does not rely solely on its Zifu strongmen. Foundation-building forces are indispensable. We should send Qingfeng and others out to win over some families and forces." "Well, I will arrange this. The 1,000-year-old foundation of my Qingshan sect cannot be shaken by a small family. Okay, let's also check the identities of these 3 small forces. Although it is inconvenient for our Qingshan sect to take action directly, it is still no problem to let other foundation-building forces get rid of them." Master Qingshan nodded and said, "Brother, I know all these things, but how are you doing with the repair of the spirit boat? If it cannot be repaired before the war begins, I am afraid that a very important combat power will be lost. There is some trouble. The Lingding sect's strength has reached the late stage of Zifu and has caused great damage. I'm afraid it will be difficult to repair it before the war with the Wang and Tang families begins." Upon hearing this, Master Qingshan let out a long sigh, with a trace of vicissitudes in his old eyes. The Qingshan sect has grown in strength over the years and now has 3 powerful men from the Purple Mansion, a 3rd-level spiritual boat, and a 3rd-level puppet. In total, it also has the combat power of 5 Zifu. In the previous battle, the spirit boat was destroyed, and a strong man from Zifu was killed in a surprise attack, resulting in heavy losses. The Tian Puppet Tang family and the Qianyanshan Wang family each have a strong person from the Purple Mansion. And I heard that the guardian spirit beast of the Qianyanshan Wang family, Purple Ring Union King, has successfully broken through to the 3rd level. The strong people from the Purple Mansion on both sides, the numbers are even. I'm afraid this battle will be a bit troublesome." Quote. In addition to these major forces, the reactions of various small forces were also very large. Qi family in Moyan Mountain. The head of the family, Qi Junlin, sat in a high position and slapped the table with his palm. The powerful momentum directly smashed it into powder, and his face was gloomy and ugly. Below, the elders of the Qi family were also silent. Qi Junlin took a few deep breaths, and finally said lightly, "Please ask the 2 elders to come out and discuss this matter together." Within a few minutes, the 2 gray-haired elders of the Qi family rushed to the meeting room and held an emergency discussion on this matter. Qi family Moyan Mountain is located in the southwest of Baihifeng City, not far from the 100 Insects Poison Swamp, and it is also considered a foundation-building force in the vicinity. Now that the closer forces such as the Spirit Snake sect have surrendered to the Wang family, what choice should the Qi family, which is in the outer circle, make? Next, many people's eyes will be on the Qi family. Under strong pressure, the head of the chief family, the elders found that they did not have many choices after an emergency discussion all night. After all, their location is close to the 100 insects poison swamp and within the territory of the Qianyan Mountain Wang family. It is impossible for them to choose to join the Qingshan sect when they are thousands of miles away, right? If they really dare to make such a choice, I am afraid that the Qianyan Mountain Wang family will not mind slapping them to death, which will just form a sharp contrast with the three forces of the spirit snake sect and kill the chicken to scare the monkey. Finally, the two elders could only helplessly arrange. Forget it, we have no choice in this matter. Junlin, issue a notice to choose the Wang family of Qianyan Mountain. Okay, but our relationship with the spirit snake sect. Don't consider it for the time being. Zion Pavilion. After learning about the tripartite cooperation between the spirit snake sect, the earthly evil sect, and the Fog Valley Market, the only remaining foundation building expert in Zion Pavilion locked himself in the room and thought for a whole night before coming out. When he came out, he looked haggard and his eyes were red, because he had seen the situation of Zion Pavilion. The earthly evil sect had completely abandoned them, abandoned their former alliance, and abandoned the Baihei market. Today, Zion Pavilion is truly isolated and helpless. Moreover, the situation of Zion Pavilion is completely different from that of other forces. Although the earthly evil sect and the Golden River sect rely on the Baihei market, they only rely on this method to obtain spirit stones, and the degree of dependence is not very high. But Zion Pavilion is different. It is almost completely dependent on Baihifang City. Almost the entire family is in the market, and all development depends on the market. So once Baihifang City completely declines, the life of Zion Pavilion will almost come to an end. Of course, they are not completely without opportunities. With a strong foundation building person, and a lot of inventory and accumulation, if they grit their teeth and completely leave Baihifang City, find a spiritual vein to start development again, they are not completely without the opportunity to make a comeback. Then in this turbulent era, this contemporary family of Zion Pavilion, a strong person at the first level of foundation building, has made a decision after thinking all night. A message spread throughout the Qin family of Zion Pavilion. Zion Pavilion will fully support the Wang family of Qianyan Mountain, gather all the resources of Baihifang City, move the whole family to the 100 insects poison swamp, follow the Zifu family to establish Donglinfang City, and seek an opportunity to start over again. His idea is very simple. Since Baihifang City is no longer reliable, he must not stay here and wait for death. The establishment of another large market will undoubtedly bring new opportunities. They can completely follow the old path and become the heroes of the establishment of Donglin Market, and then rely on this large market for development. As long as the bet is right, there will be an unlimited future. But for now, the price they need to pay is definitely not small. Not only give up the comfortable living environment of Baihei Market, make a stand too early, but also help the Wang family of Qianyan Mountain to establish Donglin Market, consuming a lot of manpower and material resources. However, after discussion, the elders of the Qin family of Zion Pavilion chose to follow the choice of the current head of the family. The family's thousand-year cause often pays attention to stability, pays attention to one step at a time, and does not tolerate any falsehood and impatience. However, how can any huge force or family not experience any risks and waves? They often ride the wind and waves, seek a ray of life in the huge waves, and in the despair of death. And Zion Pavilion wants to seize this ray of life. But their approach is completely different from that of Zhou Daocheng and others. Zhou Daocheng and the other two shouted at the top of their lungs, showing an appearance of obedience, but in fact, they did not give any practical benefits. The vanguard of clearing the poisonous swamp of insects. We did shout slogans and sent people over, but how much effort did we put in? No one knows. All they need is a sentence like, "We are really limited in ability, and we are willing but unable to do so." They can get away with it, and the Wang family will probably not pursue it. Resources prepared to build Donglin Market. I'm really sorry, the great Wang family of Qianyan Mountain, you know the situation of my Wugu Market, and you can only take out this little bit of resources, and there is no way to do more. It is a force that is purely shouting but can't do anything. However, Zion Pavilion obviously does not intend to do this. They don't want to shout slogans, but want to really join Donglin Market, really contribute their efforts, and thus rely on the Wang family. It is hard to say which of these two different ways of joining is better or worse. The Qianyan Mountain Wang family needs the Wugu Market, the Disha sect, and the Lingxi sect, and the Zion Pavilion also needs the Zion Pavilion. And then, the first thing Zion Pavilion does is to go to the Wugu market. This is very important. On the one hand, if they want to go to the Baichong poison swamp with their entire family and take refuge with the Qianyan Mountain Wang family, they need to prepare a large number of earth spirit houses as temporary residences. On the other hand, the Wugu market is obviously closer to the Baichong poison swamp. It can be said that it is the closest force to the Baichong poison swamp except the Lingxi sect. Many forces want to go to the Baichong poison swamp and need to pass through the Wugu market as a stepping stone to rest or replenish resources. So for a long time in the future, as the Qianyan Mountain Wang family reclaims the Baichong poison swamp, it will also bring great development to the Wugu market. However, when Zion Pavilion came to the Wugu market, it was surprised to find that no earth spirit houses were sold here at all. Even if they looked for the Zhou family, Shaodan Pavilion, Wang family, or the captain of the 9th level of Qi refining of the hunting team and the guard team, trying to buy a batch of earth and spirit houses through the back door, they were still rejected. The current situation is an order issued by Zhou Daocheng himself. The earth and spirit houses are directly controlled and no longer sold to the outside world. They will be fully provided to the Wang family of Qianyan Mountain. Although he really just wanted to yell slogans, he couldn't really do nothing. What can you say that can spend the least effort and get the best reward, and it happens to be what the Qianyanshan Wang family needs. After Zhou Daocheng ran for a long time, there was only one answer left in his mind: the Earth Spirit House. Next, when cleaning up the 100 insects poison swamp, there will inevitably be a large number of forces coming to station in the deserted and extremely harsh 100 insects poison swamp, and the living environment is very unsightly. In this case, if the Wugu market can supply a large number of this cave-type formation, it is better to directly supply it to the Qianyanshan Wang family for free, and then let them distribute it to other foundation-building forces, and the benefits are naturally not many. It is enough to immediately raise the status of the Wugu market among all forces again, and the Qianyanshan Wang family will most likely accept this favor. Therefore, now is the time to collect the Earth Spirit House, and to retreat to refine a large number of formation plates. During this period, Zhou Daocheng has returned to the cave and started to refine the Earth Spirit House with all his strength, including Zhou Daoyuan and Lin Chongshu, who were directly captured and refined the formation day and night every day. Even if they can only refine the first grade lower grade Earth Spirit House, this is enough to relieve Zhou Daocheng's pressure to a great extent. At this moment, Zhou Daocheng sat cross-legged in the cave of the Spirit Beast Garden, looking at the letter that just came on the communication stone in his hand, and fell into deep thought. Muttering to himself, Zion Pavilion is buying up earth spirit houses everywhere. And recently many people from the Qin family of Zion Pavilion have come to Wugu Market, and it seems that there is a big move. Zhou Daocheng had already had some vague guesses about what they were going to do, which must be related to the current situation. With the weakening of Baihei Market, they must seek a new way out, and the construction of Donglin Market is a good opportunity. Zhou Daocheng looked thoughtful, and guessed in his heart. It seems that Zion Pavilion is planning to completely rely on the Wang family of Qianyan Mountain and make a comeback with the help of Donglin Market. However, with the current strength of Zion Pavilion, I am afraid it is a bit overestimating its own capabilities. While thinking secretly, an idea suddenly popped up in his mind, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Then, he took out the communication stone and sent a message. Old Wei, come to me to get 10 sets of earth spirit houses and give them to the Taoist friends of Zion Pavilion. Then, he sent a message to his eldest brother Zhou Daobai. Brother, accompany me for a trip, there is a big order. Zhou Daobai only replied with one sentence. Okay, who are you going to harm? Zhou Daocheng's face darkened, and he chose to ignore such slanderous words. After Zion Pavilion got 10 sets of earth spirit houses, in addition to being surprised, they were more grateful. They didn't expect that at such a critical moment, the former enemy Wugyufang City would choose to help them. Even Aunt Qin Mu and her uncle, the foundation building cultivator Qin Chuya, were extremely surprised after hearing about this. They didn't expect Zhou Daocheng to help. However, they didn't think much about it. Since they got the Earth Spirit House, their plan could be implemented and many troubles would be solved. Moreover, in the past few days, they have officially announced that they have chosen to join the Wang family of Qianyan Mountain and are willing to serve as a pioneer to help clean up the poisonous swamp of hundreds of insects. However, the information of their joining did not cause much waves, because in recent days, many other forces have also begun to take sides. More than a dozen forces have clearly joined Qingshan sect, all of which are forces that rely on Qingshan sect for survival. Even among them, Zhou Daocheng saw the Ma family and the Chen family. Similarly, after Zhou Daocheng and others joined, 8 forces also chose to join the Qianyan Mountain Wang family and Tiankui Tang family one after another, including the Moyan Mountain Qi family, Xian Pavilion, Zheng family, Yuliang Lake Lu family, Qingxia Gate, etc. However, the influence of these forces is not great. Although they have driven other forces that have not yet made a decision to a certain extent, the influence is far less than that of Zhou Daocheng and the other 2. At this time, Zhou Daocheng does not have much to do, just follow the Qianyan Mountain Wang family peacefully, and then wait for the cleaning of the 100 insects poison swamp. At that time, by sending a large number of earth spirit houses and earning a lot of fame and merit, he can retire successfully, and even does not need to carry out some dangerous tasks. The Qianyan Mountain Wang family will most likely protect the Wugu market. At the same time, while Zhou Daocheng was refining the formation in the cave, he also sent people to monitor the actions of Xian Pavilion at all times. From the news received, Xian Pavilion has begun to fully gather the clansmen, sold a large number of shops in Baihei Market at low prices, and hoarded various resources for life and cultivation. And a group of clansmen have already started on the road with the Earth Spirit House, heading to the 100 insect poison swamp. Zhou Daocheng also had to sigh that the Xian Pavilion was really bold. With only a cultivator at the first level of foundation building and several elders at the 9th level of qi refining, they dared to go to the 100 insect poison swamp. It was really amazing. The entire family, most of the clansmen participated in this activity, and only a few children and elderly people without combat power remained in Baihifang City. Zhou Daocheng didn't know whether this was decisive or stupid. But no matter what, after Zhou Daocheng knew their purpose and specially sent 10 sets of Earth Spirit houses, the future direction of Xian Pavilion was no longer controlled by them alone. A huge piece of fat meat, Zhou Daocheng was sure to eat it. When he was ready and planned to go on the road with his eldest brother Zhou Daobai to go to the 100 insect poison swamp together, he didn't expect that another piece of fat meat would be stuffed directly into his mouth, making him drool. The head of the Wang family of Qianyan Mountain actually came to Wugu Market in person and presented a second-level magic weapon. When Zhou Daocheng heard the news, he was stunned. He had never expected this, and he hurried out to greet him. In Wugu Market, the second floor of the most upscale restaurant, Tianqi Shanju, hosted the head of the Wang family with the highest standards. The middle-aged man was extraordinary, with a strong aura, calm and composed, and his eyes were indifferent and calm. It was Wang Yunli, the head of the Wang family. Zhou Daocheng saluted respectfully and called him senior. After all, this person was a strong man at the peak of the 9th level of foundation building, and he was also the head of the Zifu family. Wang Yunli looked at the person in front of him with interest, and said in surprise, "I didn't expect that the dignified master of Wugu would be such a young kid." Zhou Daocheng was a little embarrassed. Since he became the master of Wugu, except Fu Qingye who called him boy, no one dared to call him a kid. However, facing the man in front of him, he did not dare to refute at all. After all, in this person's eyes, he was less than 30 years old and was indeed like a child. "Master Wang, I didn't expect you to come to Wugyufang Market in person. I am sorry for not welcoming you," Zhou Daocheng said honestly. Wang Yunli didn't care whether Zhou Daocheng was sincere or not, and smiled casually and said, "No need to be polite, I just came here to take a look at the forces that first surrendered to my Wang family and were willing to be the vanguard of my Wang family. It's nothing to mention, thank you Wang family for your concern." Wang Yunli waved his hand and said, "You were the first to stand in line this time. Whether it was intentional or unintentional, you helped our Wang family a lot. This favor, our Wang family should be grateful." Hearing this, Zhou Daocheng was thoughtful and understood the purpose of the Wang family's visit this time. This is obviously to reward the 3 families and use practical actions to tell other families that the Wang family is not a heartless person. As long as you do well, there will be a big reward. Zhou Daocheng sighed in his heart. He didn't expect that this forced choice would have unexpected benefits. Wang Yunli didn't talk much, but took out 3 magic tools from the storage bag and put them in front of Zhou Daocheng, saying, "These 3 second-level middle-grade magic tools are your rewards. You can pick one yourself." Zhou Daocheng was stunned, and his eyes lit up when he looked at the 3 magic tools floating in the air. "I didn't expect the Wang family to be so generous." They directly took out 3 second-level middle-grade magic tools. It can be seen that their foundation is so deep that it can never be compared with the foundation building forces. It is very likely that the three forces of Wugyufang City, Lingxi sect, and Disha sect combined may not be able to produce a second-level medium-grade magic weapon. However, after Zhou Daocheng looked at it for a while, he said with some difficulty, "Senior Wang, I am stupid and don't know what these three magic weapons are, nor do I know how to choose. Can you introduce the use of the magic weapons?" Hearing this, Wang Yunli was not impatient, and smiled and said, "The one on the far left is a second-level mid-level defensive weapon, the Flowing Cloud Fire Shield, which is suitable for use by fire spirit root cultivators. I don't need to introduce its specific functions. Bar. As for the middle piece, it's called the Beast Spirit Bracelet. It's a substitute for the Spirit Beast Bag. Spirit beasts can be put into it, but the area is much larger than the Spirit Beast Bag. It can store up to second-level high-grade spirit beasts." Quote. As for the one on the far right, called the Qingfeng Shuttle, it should be the most precious among the three. It is a special vehicle. Its speed is comparable to that of a late-stage foundation building monk, but it consumes more spiritual stones, so be prepared. Quote. These three magic weapons are all of good quality. Which one do you want to choose? Zhou Daocheng's eyes were calm and he was deep in thought. The quality of these three magic weapons was pretty good even among the second-order mid-grade magic weapons. Especially the Qingfeng Shuttle, which was extremely valuable. As long as you master it, it is equivalent to having the speed of a late-stage foundation building monk. In most cases, you can be almost invincible, and you can easily escape even if you can't defeat it. Moreover, no matter where you are going, you can travel much faster, which is absolutely of extraordinary significance especially in today's chaotic situation. As for the Flowing Cloud Fire Shield, the second-level defensive weapon is extremely valuable, so it is naturally worth a lot of money. There is also the Beast Spirit Bracelet. This piece of magic should be the most targeted. For a strong person who owns a spirit beast, its value is naturally very high. But for monks without spiritual beasts, this magical weapon has no effect. For Zhou Daocheng, the use of the Beast Spirit Bracelet is still very great. Nowadays, the purple-armored spirit-swallowing ant colony is getting stronger and stronger, and its comprehensive strength is close to the second level. If it can be carried around, it must be very powerful. However, after just a brief thought, Zhou Daocheng ruled it out. If you just want to store spirit beasts, a more common spirit beast bag can also be used, so there is no need to waste this important opportunity. So after hesitating for a moment, Zhou Daocheng still said, "Senior, I plan to choose Qingfeng Shuttle." Wang Yunli stroked his beard and said with a smile, "It seems that you are also a smart man. This Qingfeng Shuttle is indeed the most valuable magical weapon. I hope you will not bury it." With that said, he put away the other two magic weapons and threw the Qingfeng Shuttle directly to Zhou Daocheng. Zhou Daocheng's eyes showed excitement. Looking at the small and delicate shuttle in his hand, he suddenly secretly found a treasure. Shuttles and spirit boats are actually two relatively common vehicles with slightly different uses, but there is no doubt that both are extremely precious. Generally speaking, the shuttle is used by a single person, is a magic weapon type, and is extremely fast, but it can only carry 1 to 2 monks. The spirit boat is a large instrument with a much higher value than the shuttle. It can store a large amount of goods and monks, and it also has certain defense and attack capabilities. However, purely in terms of speed, it should be slightly slower than the shuttle. For many family forces, it is almost impossible to buy a spirit boat, so they can only settle for the next best thing and choose some smaller spirit shuttles. Zhou Daocheng carefully put it away, bowed respectfully and thanked. "Thank you very much, Master Wang, for giving me the magic weapon. Wugyufang City will definitely follow the Wang family and obey the instructions of my predecessors." Seeing Zhou Daocheng's sincere look, Wang Yunli suddenly felt teasing, and said with a half-smile, "You are at the mercy of my Wang family. I heard from my little friend before that you want to be a pioneer and help my Wang family clean up the poisonous insect swamp in advance." Quote. Hearing this, Zhou Daocheng looked awkward, and he just said this casually. The people were indeed sent there, but most of the time they hid in the Tuling Lodge, and slept, that is, just pretending. How could it be possible? Really clean up? If he really wanted to pursue it, he really couldn't do what he shouted. This. Senior Wang, the monsters in 100 Insect Poison Marsh are indeed quite strong. Then you shout slogans very loudly. Zhou Daocheng was stunned, and he really didn't know how to answer for a moment. Seeing that the situation was frozen, cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Just when he was anxious about how to rescue the siege, Wang Yunli suddenly laughed heartily and said, "Ha ha ha, don't you know if you have the ability to clean up? Just wait and see. Since you don't have the strength, then set an example and shout slogans. Try to get as many foundation building forces to join your team. Zhou Daocheng nodded after hearing this. I understand, senior, but nothing. Just tell me what you have to say. Zhou Daocheng said, neither humble nor arrogantly. Although our Wugyufang city lacks the strength to clean up the monsters in the 100 insect poison swamp, the matter of providing backup resources is not nonsense. We have been preparing for this for a long time. Wang Yunli was stunned, glanced at Zhou Daocheng with some curiosity, and said with some disdain, only relying on a small market like yours. It's not that I look down on you. Although this market is developing pretty well, even if you use all your strength, it should be if you can get a few second-level items, how can you provide resources for our Qianyanshan Wang family? This time, Zhou Daocheng smiled and said, Senior Wang, my background in Wugu is indeed insufficient, but there is one thing that should be of great use in cleaning up the 100 insect poison swamp this time. Seeing what he said, the former young man was still so confident. Wang Yunli became a little curious and asked, Oh, tell me, if you deliberately deceive me, don't blame me for falling out. Zhou Daocheng didn't say anything more and took out a small set of formations from his storage bag. It's Tu Ling Xiaosh. However, as soon as he sensed the quality of the formation disc, Wang Yunli's face became a little ugly, and his voice was a little cold, and he said, Little friend, if you stop joking now, I can still pretend that this never happened. Zhou Daocheng shook his head and said seriously, Senior Wang, how dare I act clever in front of seniors? Don't just look at its quality. This kind of array has abilities that seniors can never imagine. Afterwards, Zhou Daocheng directly unfolded the array, fully demonstrating the usefulness and value of Tu Ling Xiaosh. Just after a cup of tea, Wang Yunli's expression changed again and again. He was originally standing, but now he sat down and carefully looked at a first-order formation. Because he discovered that the value of this formation was indeed far greater than imagined. In a wild environment that is completely controlled by monsters, if there is such a formation that integrates defense, warning, and cultivation, and can also provide a comfortable living environment, the significance is far beyond imagination. After truly understanding it, a serious look appeared on Wang Yunli's face, and he asked, My friend, although this formation is of high value, it is only a first-level low-grade one and can easily be destroyed by monsters in the wild, right? Zhou Daocheng nodded and said, It is true. If a house appears in the wild for no reason, it may indeed attract more monsters, but this kind of earth spirit house can appear underground. Quote. With that said, Zhou Daocheng showed another underground earth spirit hut. The problem raised by Wang Yunli has actually been considered by him a long time ago. It can be regarded as the long-standing shortcomings of Tu Ling Xiaosh. On the one hand, in a wild environment, if a small earth spirit hut suddenly appears, it is likely to attract the attention of monsters and deliberately besiege it, which will bring more dangers. On the other hand, the quality of Tu Ling Xiaosh is low. If it encounters an environment like a place where yin gathers, just the strong yin energy around it can destroy the formation. Therefore, Zhou Daocheng simply changed the formation pattern slightly so that the earth spirit house, formed by the formation, would appear underground. Anyway, this is an earth attribute formation and it is fully capable of doing this. And being underground will be relatively safer and more concealed. When Wang Yunli saw this scene, he couldn't help but nodded in approval, with a look of surprise in his eyes. Zhou Daocheng continued. Senior Wang, if you are worried about sneak attacks at night, the spirit snake sect also has spirit beasts and spirit swallowing ants. As long as you equip 3 or 4 of them and station them around the formation, you can always be aware of the dangers around you. Furthermore, I have increased the size of the internal building of the Tuling Lodge as much as possible. It can accommodate about 10 people, and I can also arrange for people to keep vigil. Quote. If it is a mid-grade or high-grade earth spirit hut, it can also be equipped with other attacks, defenses, confusion formations, etc. Zhou Daocheng explained all the advantages of the formation in one breath, and then looked at Wang Yunli quietly. At this moment, as the head of the Wang family, he no longer had any intention of looking down upon him. It was a small first-order low-grade formation that had far more meaning than he imagined. Especially for land reclamation, this formation is of great significance. It is equivalent to carrying a set of caves with you. You can rest at any time, relieve fatigue, and make your night's rest safer. Finally, after Wang Yunli thought for a long time, he asked the last question. My friend, can this formation be refined in large quantities? Zhou Daocheng smiled and said, It is currently in mass production. A look of surprise appeared on Wang Yunli's face, and he analyzed. This formation is of extraordinary value, especially for the subsequent cleanup of the 100 insect poison swamp. The environment there is extremely harsh and there are poisonous insects, snakes and ants everywhere. If there is such an formation, protection, the security of all forces will be guaranteed. Little friend, if you can provide a sufficient quantity of this kind of Tuling hut, our Wang family will definitely not treat you badly. By then, whether it is the shops in Donglinfang City or the spiritual veins of Baichong Poison Marsh, I, the Wang family, can allocate it to you in Wugu according to merit. Quote. Joy also appeared on Zhou Daocheng's face. The two benefits promised by Wang Yunli had other benefits for Wugu. As a large-scale city, Donglinfang City's internal shops must be of high value. Whether they are used for business operations, direct leasing or sales, they can bring huge spiritual stone profits. Secondly, there is another most valuable item in the 100 insect poison swamp, and that is the large number of spiritual veins that exist in it. The quality of a large part of the spiritual veins can reach the second level, and a very small part can even reach the third level. This is the foundation for the development of the family and the power. It can be expected that if Donglinfang City is completely built, many families and forces will inevitably gather around it. It will be a brand new place for survival and development, with many opportunities. Therefore, the benefits Wang Yunli promised directly made Zhou Daocheng dizzy. Until Wang Yunli had left. In Wugyufeng City, Zhou Daocheng was still immersed in joy. This time, the benefits were more than imagined. At this time, Wang Yunli, who was leaving, also looked solemn and murmured to himself, it seems that the Lord of Fog Valley is a formation genius, so his value to our Wang family should be greater than imagined. To be higher, it is necessary to win over. As a peak expert at the 9th level of foundation building and the head of the Zifu family, his vision is much higher than that of others. Therefore, he understood even more how valuable a formation master who could change formation patterns at will and even create new formations was. At least in the past, he rarely saw other formation mages being able to do this. After Zhou Daocheng saw Wang Yunli off, a smile appeared on his face. This time in front of the Wang family, he has shown enough value, and there is a high probability that he will attract the other party's attention. This can also be regarded as giving Wu Jiyu a certain amount of capital to settle down in the coming chaos. Tu Ling Xiaosh has refined a lot, and now I just want to go out and deal with the matter in Xian Pavilion. Zhou Daocheng thought silently and had already arranged the next things. The Qin family of Xian Pavilion, as a powerful foundation building force in Baihifeng City, has accumulated huge resources over the years. Even though it is now in decline, a skinny camel is bigger than a horse, and it still has a lot of foundation. Under the current circumstances, if this mouthful of fat can be swallowed in one bite, then the foundation accumulated by Xian Pavilion over the years will inevitably become the foundation of Wugu. No, to be more precise, it should be the foundation of the Zhou family. That night, two figures left the foggy valley, followed by a ray of blue light across the night sky, and disappeared into the vast mountains. The Qingfeng shuttle, as a second-level mid-grade magical weapon, Zhou Daocheng deeply felt its terrifying speed at this time. It was truly comparable to the rush of a strong person in the late stage of foundation building. It came and went without a trace. The only pity is that it can only seat 2 people, which is still a lot worse than the Lingzhou. It took almost a day and a half for the two to reach the 100 insects poison swamp, which was faster than expected. And on the way, they also saw a large team from Xian Pavilion. Even though they had been on their way here many days ago, they were still much slower than Qingfeng shuttle. After finding a safe area and setting up the Earth Spirit House, Zhou Daocheng entered it to rest and wait, while refining the formation and checking the movements of Xian Pavilion. It can be found that the closer they are to the 100 insects poison swamp, the slower they move. Obviously, they understand the danger here and dare not act rashly. It took them almost 3 days to reach the area where Zhou Daocheng and the others were, and began to set up camp, set up the Earth Spirit House, and clear the surrounding monsters. Obviously, they intended to stay here temporarily. Zhou Daocheng took a general look and found that the team of Xian Pavilion was not small, with a total of nearly 30 people, and their strength was not weak. They should all be the backbone of the Qin family of Xian Pavilion. Seeing this scene, the eldest brother Zhou Daobai couldn't help but sighed. Is Xian Pavilion going to risk everything? One foundation building expert, 8 Qi refining level 9 experts, plus more than 20 Qi refining late-stage cultivators, this is almost emptying the family's funds. Zhou Daocheng also nodded seriously. Not only the monks, look at each of them carrying a lot of storage bags, they should have brought a lot of resources. Tisk, 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 sixth brother, you are so cruel to attack Zion Pavilion at this time. Zhou Daobai couldn't help but sigh. Zhou Daocheng looked calmly and said, if we are not cruel to others, then others will be cruel to us from now on. The Zhou family has been destroyed many times, but I remember it clearly. Forget it, when do you plan to take action? Let's wait until night. Every one of the Qin family's team in Zion Pavilion is an elite of the Qin family, 9 elders of the 9th level of Qi refining, and 8 of them came directly this time. The team is in orderly order. After rigorous training, the positions are also extremely elegant, ensuring that everyone in the team watches each other to avoid being attacked by monsters. Uncle, this is already the edge of the 100 insect poison swamp. If we go deeper, we may encounter danger due to our strength. Aunt Qin Mu was wearing a tight-fitting cyan outfit, but her charm was not diminished at all, said while scanning the surrounding environment. Qin Chuya looked vigilant, always checking the surrounding environment. After making sure it was safe, he ordered, stay here. There happens to be some dry ground. If we go further in, I'm afraid there will be a lot of swamps. Everyone placed a tooling spirit cottage. 5 people shared one set. One person was left to keep watch every night. The spirit beast, spirit swallowing ant, was placed 30 feet away. He was always vigilant about the surrounding situation and cheered me up. Everyone should know the danger here. Quote. As the task arrangement continued, the Qin family all began to arrange nervously, with skillful movements, and set up 7 earth spirit huts on the ground. The exquisite earthen hut looks a little out of place in the primitive wilderness jungle, as if it is about to be swallowed up by this wild land. Especially as night falls, many poisons from the 100 insect poison swamp begin to appear. The night is dark and depressing, and from time to time there are strange sounds of monsters chirping, which makes people shudder. Qin Chuya did not dare to sleep and was always vigilant about the surrounding situation. As the contemporary head of the Qin family and the only strong foundation builder, he needs to take responsibility for this action. The entire Qin family's wealth is tied here. If they successfully gain the favor of the Wang family in Qianyan Mountain and get the opportunity to develop in Donglanfang City, the Wang family can still be strong for 100 years. But if an accident occurs, it is equivalent to losing 100 years of foundation. If all the achievements accumulated over the years are lost, the Qin family's foundation and strength will inevitably plummet. Therefore, this matter is related to the survival of the family, and there is no room for him to be careless. In the middle of the night, Qin Chuya, who was sitting cross-legged, looked out of the window of Tuling Lodge warily, then walked out with a knife. I saw a late-stage first-order venomous snake approaching the area where the Qin family members were stationed. It raised its neck and made a vague, hissing sound. Qin Chuya snorted coldly, cursed a beast, and rushed forward quickly, slashing directly with the long knife, and a glint of the knife flashed in the night. However, as soon as the poisonous snake discovered Qin Chuya, it immediately retreated into the jungle behind it. The speed was so fast that Qin Chuya lost his grip for a moment. Qin Chuya frowned and hurried forward a few steps, but the venomous snake swam extremely fast, and after just a few breaths, it completely disappeared into the jungle. When Qin Chuya reached a distance of 30 feet, he stopped cautiously and glanced at the Qin family members behind him, but in the end he did not catch up. Just as he was about to return, a very weak, rustling sound suddenly came from the forest. Who? Qin Chuya exclaimed and was about to step back, but the next moment he was surprised to find that his legs had been stuck to the ground at some point. Looking down, he saw that the surrounding area of several feet had turned into quicksand. The terrifying force wrapped his feet in real time, making it impossible to break free in a short time. Qin Chuya secretly thought that it was not good, this was not a method that a monster could use. A look of panic suddenly appeared in his eyes, and he hurriedly tried to get away. But in the blink of an eye, a huge thing suddenly emerged from the jungle in front of him. The terrifying snake head carried an icy aura, opened its huge mouth, and attacked Qin Chuya quickly. You beasts, who dares to attack my Qin family? Qin Chuya was still a strong foundation builder after all. Although he was attacked by surprise, he reacted very quickly and launched a counterattack quickly. While trying to break away from the quicksand formation, he tried his best to resist the incoming big snake. The second-level meteorite knife in his hand was directly blocked by the sharp teeth of the giant snake in front of him to prevent himself from being swallowed. However, when he looked at the giant snake, he couldn't help but secretly said, "Oops." A powerful mental attack directly broke through the defense in his mind, making him dizzy. His movements suddenly softened and he couldn't help but fall back. But when faced with a life and death crisis, he still tried his best to recover, gritted his teeth and resisted mental attacks, trying to stay awake as much as possible. However, after only holding on for a second, Chinchuya's clear eyes instantly became dull. A more powerful mental attack attacked him in an instant, and the combination of the two made him unable to defend against it. And before his mind blurred, he saw a horrifying scene. In the dark jungle on the right, a pair of eerie snake eyes were revealed again, and the aura had also reached the second level. How can it be? He still wanted to resist, but the flower viper had already launched a sneak attack, and its huge body directly wrapped around his body. Although his mind could recover from the easy attack, the situation was completely deadlocked. The black-eyed ghost-scaled snake bit down without hesitation, piercing Chinchuya's chest directly and biting through his powerful heart. In an instant, Chinchuya's body kept twitching and struggling, but unfortunately he was tied up by the flower viper. After only 2 or 3 breaths, his body gradually became limp, and a trace of grayness appeared in his eyes. His life breath was like a candle in the wind. He only had the strength of the first level of foundation building, and his means were not strong. At the same time, he was trapped by Zhou Daocheng, attacked by Zhou Daobai's spirit, and attacked by 2 second-level giant pythons. He had almost no room for resistance. Especially the spirit attack of the soul-suppressing bell, which was originally a very powerful second-level magic weapon, and it was controlled by Zhou Daobai, who was at the second level of foundation building. The power was definitely not something Chinchuya could resist. The whole process of siege and killing took only 2 breaths. Even Zhou Daocheng and Zhou Daobai did not show up directly. After all, they just hid in the dark and watched the scene silently. When everything was over, Zhou Daocheng flicked his right hand lightly, and the 3 formations on the ground gradually disappeared. Formations on the ground gradually disappeared. Formations on